Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV. I'm Gargi Raut. Our top story, the earthquakes in Turkey. A major earthquake struck Turkey and Syria on Monday, killing more than 4,300 people, flattening thousands of buildings as rescuers dug with bare hands for survivors. Multi-story apartment buildings full of residents were among the 5,606 structures reduced to rubble in Turkey, while Syria announced dozens of collapses as well as damage to archaeological sites. In Aleppo, the head of Syria's National Earthquake Center called it the biggest earthquake recorded in the history of the center. The initial quake was followed by dozens of aftershocks, including a 7.5 magnitude tremor that jolted the region in the middle of search and rescue work on Monday. Now, various countries are sending in rescue teams. The EU is sending its teams to Turkey. Netherlands, Romania too on their way, while the UK said it will send 76 specialist equipment and rescue dogs. France, Germany, Israel, India as well are sending all help to Turkey. And take a look at this CCTV footage inside a shop which captured the moment the powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck. The objects you can see falling off shelves. The entire shop is shaking. And as we said, our countries are sending their teams. Hundreds of volunteers, rescue workers and NGO members have rushed to Istanbul airport to join the aid efforts, where several cities have been devastated. Footage you can see shows hundreds of people with their backpacks in hand trying to enter terminals there. And amid the rescue work, one story of hope. A woman was brought out alive from the rubble in Diyarbakir on Monday evening. Rescuers searched through the frigid night, hoping to pull more survivors from the rubble. And India too is sending aid and humanitarian assistance. The first batch of earthquake relief material has left for Turkey, along with NDRF search and rescue teams, specially trained dog squads, medical supplies, drilling machineries and other necessary equipment.
Yes, as you know, a massive earthquake took place in Turkey and Syria today morning, and based on the inputs, a lot of casualties have occurred. So the government of India, as a measure of HADR, that is the humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations that we do, the government has taken a decision to send 2 teams of NDRF to Turkey to help us in conducting the rescue and relief operations. So about 101 persons from 2 teams, one of the 8th Battalion at Ghaziabad and the other from 2nd Battalion at Kolkata. They will be going for this mission.
All right, the other big story we're tracking this morning, the Supreme Court is hearing a plea challenging the appointment of lawyer Chandra Victoria Gauri as a judge of the Madras High Court, and this coming just an hour before her swearing into the High Court. The Supreme Court scheduled this hearing at around 9:30 initially, and then later around 10:15. Arrangements meanwhile are being made in the Madras High Court for her oath, which is to take place an hour later at 10:30. And soon after the centre had notified her judgeship, the Supreme Court on Monday advanced the hearing to today from Friday. Now, the proposal to elevate the woman lawyer who's been representing the centre before the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court has been mired in controversy. This after reports emerged about her alleged affiliation to the BJP, as well as alleged hate speeches made by her against minority communities. These are in interviews that she has given. Well, let's go across to Sam Daniel, who joins us from Chennai, and Sunil joins us from Delhi for more on this major controversy and another situation of the collegium and the centre and, tensions between them. Sunil, first to you, what is happening there? Earlier we heard that the hearing was going to be 9:15, then 9:30, now it's going to be at 10:15, and the Supreme Court brought forward this hearing from Friday to today just before the swearing in is to take place.
Well, Gargi, just to give an update to our viewers, it's now slated for 10:30. That's what the supplementary cause list, and it's in court number 7 where it's going to be heard. Having said that, as you rightly pointed out, Victoria Gauri has been controversial right from the day start. Somewhere between the lines. It's, skipped or evaded the collegium's attention about the fact of affiliation with the BJP. And then, of course, there have been huge protests that have occurred immediately after her recommendation and elevation as a judge. But of course, as we saw in the cases of where there are reiteration, the government has been going slow. But in the case of Victoria Gauri, as well as others, we have seen a tearing hurry by the government to get this appointment done. And it's in that backdrop that we have witnessed these scenes, unusual scenes of pre-portment, where the Chief Justice of India himself yesterday saying that the collegium has taken cognizance of the matter. This is something that really shows that whatever you do, no system is foolproof, and it's in that backdrop they will hear that hearing. Once she is appointed or sworn in, it will become extremely difficult for the collegium or for that matter the Supreme Court to do anything in this regard.
All right, Sunil, stay on. We'll come back to you. Let's just go across to Sam for more on this. And Sam, ever since her name was announced, we've seen, this petitions against her, even in the Madras High Court as well. Several issues have been raised. Now, this is to do with these interviews which she had done in which she spoke out against minorities, Christians and Muslims, as well as her affiliation to the BJP. She was a functionary in the party.
That's right, Gargi. In fact, 21 senior lawyers from the Madras High Court had written 2 separate letters to the President of India as well as the Chief Justice to the Collegium, in fact, saying that in 2 videos, Ms. Victoria Gauri is seen making hateful speech, a hate speech as they call it, against minorities, and they say this is a fit case to be prosecuted, and this would be unbecoming of a person to be elevated as a judge who could be prosecuted. And they say, imagine if a minority litigant, his or her case comes to this particular judge, would there be any chance for justice with this kind of an antipathy towards minorities? That's what they had raised. They had asked the collegium to recall their recommendation, and they had asked the president to not accept the recommendation, and even to ask an explanation how this kind of information did not come to the notice of the collegium. Meanwhile, another set of lawyers from the Madurai bench, where she serves as the Assistant Solicitor General, they had in fact written again to the collegium and the president, calling this kind of an attempt by the Chennai-based lawyers as political vendetta, and that her case has to be accepted and sworn in as the Madras High Court. In fact, we are at the Madras High Court where everything is ready for the Chief Justice and the other senior judges to come for swearing in the 5 newly elevated judges, lawyers as judges. But with swift developments in the Supreme Court, at the moment at least, we don't have any confirmation on whether there will be any changes. The lawyers who are opposing her elevation, they say there could be 3 possibilities. One, if the judges find merit in this allegation, they may ask the Chief Justice of the Madras High Court to put her elevation alone on hold and swear in the other 4 judges. If they find there's no reason to believe, if they have any doubts over the veracity of the video, they may say go ahead, because their view, if this elevation is done and then to remove her, if they find merit to remove her as judge, then that will be a complicated procedure because they have to go through the impeachment process. And meanwhile, we spoke to Victoria Gauri a few days ago for her reaction, whether she had made those speeches and what she has to say about these allegations. She had said, I'm not inclined to speak on that at the moment.
All right, so Sam, we'll have to just wait and see. It's quite a unusual situation. You have this hearing in the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, it's the preparation for that swearing in is taking place at the Madras High Court. And as we said, that hearing is at 10:30, and at 10:35, around 10:35 is when the swearing in is meant to take place. Thanks so much, Sam, for joining us with the latest there. And this morning, the BJP parliamentary party held a meeting in Parliament today. There you can see ministers arriving for that meeting that took place earlier this morning, and the Prime Minister also attended the meeting. There you can see the Prime Minister sitting with the BJP President JP Nadda there, and also was expected to address the MPs and discussion on crucial issues, including the recently passed union budget. All right, now a crisis for the Congress in Maharashtra, a tussle between the top two Maharashtra leaders of the Congress. CLP leader has rebelled against the party chief, and sources have told NDTV that Thorat has written to Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge saying that he cannot work with Nana Patole. Let's go across to Sohit for more on this story. And Sohit, already the Congress is not in a very good position there in Maharashtra, and now more trouble with this, trouble between the top two there.
That's right. In fact, Gargi, if we speak about this is regarding the entire Satyajit Tambe episode.
Who will be contesting the election at the last moment? Satyajit Tambe contested as an independent from the Nashik graduate constituency. Now, Satyajit Tambe as well as his father, Sudhir Tambe, are close relatives of Balasaheb Thorat, who is the senior most Congress leader in Maharashtra. He has been 8-time MLA. He has been the Congress president, and in the NDA government, he was also the revenue minister. But the way Satyajit Tambe was suspended, there were things that were said not only about Satyajit Tambe and Sudhir Tambe, but also about Balasaheb Thorat as well as his supporters. That's the reason a letter has been written. Now, as per sources, what we know is that in the letter, it has been said that it is difficult to work with Nana Patole, and the Satyajit Tambe episode could have been handled better. Now, why is that written? Because just after Satyajit Tambe said that he will contest as an independent, the Congress suspended him and his father for 6 years. Now, if you look at the other scenarios, if you remember, Gargi, when the MDA government was in trouble, when Eknath Shinde did rebel, there was a floor test. At that time, Ashok Chavan and several other Congress leaders were not present inside the assembly. However, no action was taken against them. Later, we saw when the MLC elections was happening, even at that time, the first candidate of Congress, which was Mr. Chandrakant Handore, he did lose, but the second candidate, Bhai Jagtap, won the election. And even at that time, it was said that there will be any disciplinary action taken, but nothing happened. But in this case, about the Satyajit Tambe case, if we talk about that, urgently in the next 3 days, we saw that he was suspended. They asked him to apologize, and there was no communication, and that is why now a letter has been written. This is what has said that this entire episode could have been handled in a better way, but that did not happen, and that's why now in the letter it has been said that it is not easy to work with Nana Patole, who is the Congress state president of Maharashtra. So yes, as you said, the two top leaders in the Congress party against one another, and this is happening when Gandhi also did a Bharat Jodo Yatra which went through Maharashtra, but despite that, it doesn't seem that things in Congress are changing, at least at the moment.
All right, thanks so much, Sohit, for joining us with those details. All right, news now from Delhi and the latest between the Aam Aadmi Party and BJP. Both parties will be holding rival protests over the disruption in the mayor polls for a third time. The House of the Municipal Corporation of Delhi failed to conduct the mayor's election for the third time in a month after the presiding officer Satya Sharma adjourned the meeting on Monday owing to the ruckus. Following the adjournment of the House, Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia said the party is going to seek the Supreme Court's intervention for impartial mayoral elections. Meanwhile, as we said, both parties are going to hold protests accusing the other of disruption. Earlier we spoke to Vedant for more.
The Delhi deadlock continues really. Yesterday, of course, for the third time, both the rival parties clashed again over the mayoral polls in the national capital, and they were disrupted again. Soon after they got disrupted in the House and adjourned, the Aam Aadmi Party declared that they will be going to the Supreme Court and they will demand court-monitored elections and the elections to be complete within 10 days. Now, for our viewers outside Delhi, what this huge standoff is all about. I remember the Aam Aadmi Party had a landslide victory back in December as far as the MCD elections were concerned. They were high-stakes battle, and after that, now the battle, an open battle, is for the post of mayor and deputy mayor in the national capital. And the BJP has declared that this is an open house and they will be contesting these polls. So remember, even though the Aam Aadmi Party has the numbers as far as the MCD is concerned, Delhi may have a could have a BJP mayor. How is that going to work? So the Aam Aadmi Party has close to 134 councillors. The BJP meanwhile has around 105 councillors. So remember, the 10 older men or the nominated members will be allowed to vote. That is what the pro tem speaker, the deputy speaker said yesterday. So 10 votes of these nominated members plus potential cross votes from from the Aam Aadmi Party, because remember this is a secret ballot, that could lead to a BJP mayor despite an Aam Aadmi Party victory in the NCD. So that is all. That is what this huge standoff is all about. So it remains to be seen what happens. But today, both the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP will be protesting. The BJP at the Aam Aadmi Party headquarters and the Aam Aadmi Party at the BJP headquarters. So of course, politics is only likely to intensify in the coming days. But let's just have a look at what really triggered this huge political standoff. Yesterday, the speaker said that the nominated members will be allowed to vote, and what followed was ruckus in the NCD House for the third consecutive time. Let's just have a look.
Still no mayor for one of India's most high-profile civic bodies, the MCD, the Municipal Corporation of Delhi, despite 3 sittings and a 2-month-old election result that saw an Aam Aadmi Party victory. Today's proceedings were called off after 10 councillors nominated by Lieutenant Governor V.K. Saxena were allowed to vote. The Delhi Municipal Corporation Act says that nominated members or aldermen cannot vote in House meetings. The Aam Aadmi Party has strongly opposed voting rights for the nominated members, alleging that these members are inclined to support the BJP. The BJP says that the Aam Aadmi Party is trying to sabotage the polls and that it is the presiding officer's decision that aldermen can vote. The Aam Aadmi Party won 134 of the 250 wards in last December's MCD polls. The BJP finished second with 104 seats.
जनता ने इनको हरा दिया है, तो ये इलीगल तरीके से, अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल तरीके से अब अफसरों के जरिए नगर निगम को बीजेपी चला रही है. ये बर्दाश्त नहीं है. अब हम इसके लेके पूरी उम्मीद रखते हैं कि अब जब ये असंवैधानिक काम हो रहा है भारतीय जनता पार्टी द्वारा और गुंडागिरी खुलेआम हो रही है, तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में इसको लेके जाएंगे.
9 भारतीय जनता पार्टी के काउंसलर्स को अप्रोच किया गया और कहा गया कि उन्हें कभी पद का लालच, कभी पोजीशन का लालच और कभी पैसों का लालच देने का प्रयास किया गया. अब अगर आपको पूरा भरोसा है, विश्वास है, तो आप मेयर बनने देते और उसके बाद जो आपको चैलेंज करना है आप चैलेंज कर सकते थे. आपने क्यों नहीं करने दिया?
The BJP lost control of the municipal body after 15 years in power. The Aam Aadmi Party alleges that the BJP is trying to gain control of the mayor's post by unethical means.
In this political game of numbers, the worst hit are the residents of Delhi, who are still without a mayor even after they gave their mandate nearly 2 months ago. Well, in the coming days, the politics in the national capital is likely to intensify with a fresh battleground now between the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP. In New Delhi with camera person Karan Patra, Vedant for NDTV.
Invest once and enjoy guaranteed maturity with life cover with LIC's Dhan Varsha, a single premium plan for your family's security and prosperity.
Namaskar, this is Amitabh Bachchan.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story India is closely watching. News that informs and inspires.
The news with Sonia Singh. Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. Only on NDTV 24/7.
The only side we're on is yours.
When a glimmer of hope gave way to a new global threat, we were there. As our soldiers squared off against a hostile neighbor for yet another freezing winter, we were there. When brutality overwhelmed justice and a mockery was made of the rule of law, we were there. When the death of our first Chief of Defence Staff united our nation, we were there. Hope, justice, the truth. Left, right and centre with me, Vishnu Shobh, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. on NDTV 24/7.
Cross the distance between darkness and vision. Teach a generation that has lost all hope. Treat a patient from thousands of miles away. None of this was possible
till technology stepped in and made it possible. A selection of the finest stories from across the country where technology comes with a human touch.
Unleash your dreams with Snapdragon in collaboration with NDTV, only on the NDTV network.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love. You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
What accountability are you talking about?
As long as the core values and principles remain uncompromised. Debates are essential not just for journalism, but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter-opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 22 years old, but it is young at 22.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया.
So let us begin the big fight.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big
Welcome back. News now from Jammu and Kashmir, where an anti-encroachment drive by the Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory Administration has snowballed into a massive controversy. The opposition has accused the administration for targeting poor and also political opponents in the name of the anti-encroachment drive. There have been protests at multiple places as land cultivated and inhabited by people for generations has been declared illegal and illegal encroachment. The government has directed all the district collectors to retrieve state land, leased land, common use land and also grazing land occupied by people. Earlier we spoke to Nazir for more on this controversy.
Anti-encroachment drive which is going on for last over 2 weeks across Jammu and Kashmir, and there's not a single place which is not actually witnessing some sort of protest, resentment and even social chaos, because everybody has some land. This is the only place across the country, Jammu and Kashmir, where everybody is owning a land or using land, whether it is the state land or the propriety land, because of the Land Reforms Act in 1950. So now the government has come with the order that this land, state land or the common use land, except propriety land, they should be retrieved. People should be evicted from this land. And now order is clearly the entire land should be, retrieved. But then when there was a, protest and all that, government is now saying, LG administration is now saying, no, we're only targeting the rich and influential, but there's no formal order. So officials are following the order which has been issued by the government. If you use these visuals clearly speak, these small makeshift structure don't belong to any rich and influential. They are belong to the poor people. That's why we see everywhere yesterday, Mahbooba Mufti, Umar Abdullah, Sajjad Lone, they held press conferences and blamed government actually dispossessing people. So according to the reports, around 4 lakh, near 4 lakh canals of land has been retrieved in Kashmir Valley only, which is around 50,000 acres of land. So it is actually, people are worried what would happen to them, their livelihood. Many people are losing livelihood because shops built on them have been demolished. Bulldozers are being used in every district. And even yesterday, Umar Abdullah talking about, why bulldozer has become the first, response to the situation, why notices are not being issued, why, they are not following the due process. Mahbooba Mufti even saying that it is worse than Palestine. And she said they're making Kashmir like Afghanistan. This is what Mahbooba Mufti said, and Sajjad Lone is blaming, these bureaucrats and the LG administration, saying those people who have come here for some time working here, they are, pushing people to poverty and homelessness. So really a major issue, the government talking about removing encroachments from the state land, but it's impacting almost everybody in Jammu and Kashmir across 20 districts. And there is a protest, in fact, few days back, we saw stone pelting in Jammu, where they were clashed, there were protests, and then at least 5 people have been formally arrested for stone pelting in Jammu. But anti-encroachment drive, which government says will continue, and it is actually continuing across Jammu and Kashmir, across 20 districts of Jammu and Kashmir, which has caused a lot of confusion and social chaos, and people fear for their home, people for their livelihood, and people for their fear for their land they have been cultivating for generations.
Ritika. When a glimmer of hope gave way to a new global threat, we were there. As our soldiers squared off against a hostile neighbor for yet another freezing winter, we were there. When brutality overwhelmed justice and a mockery was made of the rule of law, we were there. When the death of our first Chief of Defence Staff united our nation, we were there. Hope, justice, the truth. Left, right and centre with me, Vishnu Shom, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. on NDTV 24/7.
Cross the distance between darkness and vision. Teach a generation that has lost all hope. Treat a patient from thousands of miles away. None of this was possible
till technology stepped in and made it possible. A selection of the finest stories from across the country where technology comes with a human touch.
Unleash your dreams with Snapdragon in collaboration with NDTV, only on the NDTV network.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love. You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
What accountability are you talking about?
As long as the core values and principles remain uncompromised. Debates are essential not just for journalism, but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter-opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 22 years old, but it is young at 22.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया.
So let us begin the big fight.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story India is closely watching. News that informs and inspires.
The news with Sonia Singh. Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
The only side we're on is yours.
When a glimmer of hope gave way to a new global threat, we were there.
Hello and welcome to our show, Health and Wellness, Myths versus Facts. I'm Gargi Rawat. Made up of the glands that produce hormones, the endocrine system regulates almost everything that happens in the body, controlling growth, puberty, processing food and water, and maintaining the proper levels of blood sugar. The pituitary gland is the master gland controlling all the hormones in the body. If the gland goes wrong, then people can suffer with a range of symptoms and conditions. These are rare and can be tricky to diagnose, so more awareness is needed to promote quicker diagnosis and better care. Pituitary diseases are rare conditions with severe chronic multi-organ and multi-systemic morbidity, requiring complex multidisciplinary treatment and usually lifelong drug treatment. We have with us eminent endocrinologists to provide medically accurate advice on preventing various endocrine conditions related to the pituitary gland and help viewers identify long-term control strategies. We're joined by Dr. and Professor Deep Datta, Chairman, Department of Endocrinology, Syria Super Speciality Clinics, and Dr. Pankaj Jain, Consultant Endocrinologist, Pratham Endocrine Clinic, Gwalior. Thank you so much, doctors, for joining us on the program. Dr. Datta, first to you. Numerous glands throughout the body produce hormones. What are hormones and why are they essential for the proper functioning of the body?
Hormones are chemical messengers which are made by glands. They are released in the blood circulation and they go all over the body carrying vital information. It tells all the different body parts how much to work, when to work. So there are hormones for sleep, there are hormones for appetite, there are hormones for energy, there are hormones to control the metabolism. So they are like the language by which different body parts talk with each other.
Right. Well, that's an explanation on, what the hormones do. Dr. Jain, the endocrine system is responsible for regulating a range of bodily functions through the release of the hormones. How does the endocrine system work, and why is the pituitary gland called the master gland?
Endocrine system continuously monitor the amount of hormones in your blood, and they deliver their message by locking into the cells, and they target where they can relay the message. And this is called the master gland because there are many hormones is produced by the pituitary gland, like the growth hormone, prolactin, ACTH, thyroid, TSH secretion. There is many hormones, and it take care of not only the pituitary but also the other gonads are, whether it is the gonads, it is the adrenal. It is governed by the whether it is a thyroid gland. It is governed by the pituitary hormones. So we called it the master gland because this is the pituitary gland which take care of many other glands in our body. So we call it the master of the pituitary gland.
All right, Dr. Datta, as we discussed, the pituitary gland controls several other hormone-releasing glands, and damage to the pituitary gland can have major effects on the body. So what can damage the pituitary gland?
Yeah, as Dr. Saab just now said, it's the master endocrine gland. It controls all the gland in the body. So it is present at a very critical, safe location in the center of the brain. There is a bony cage where it sits, and there's brain all around to shield and protect it. But still, unfortunate damage can happen. A fall, a head injury, a banging of the head, a road traffic accidents. So any form of injury to the head, even while playing, the ball hits my head hard, that can damage the pituitary gland. And that damage may not be apparent in a few hours or days. Sometimes it may be apparent even 5 to 10 years down the lane. Another important cause is pregnancy, especially in ladies during the time of delivery. If they have lost too much of blood, so that would have led to a state of low blood pressure, and the blood supply to the brain goes off transiently, and that can also damage the pituitary gland. For certain tumors of the head and neck region, we may have to give radiation to the head and neck region, and some of the radiation may unwantedly go to the pituitary gland, and that can also damage the pituitary glands. Similarly, a lot of different anti-cancer therapies are sometimes also known to damage the pituitary glands. And there is a very diverse condition called autoimmune conditions, where our immune system, which typically makes antibodies to kill foreign organisms, by some mistake, they start making antibodies against their own body parts. So if my immune system sometimes makes antibodies against my pituitary gland, it will not let it function properly and may lead to its damage.
All right, Dr. Jain, pituitary disorders generally occur when the pituitary gland is either too effective or not active enough. If you could explain this, further to us, what are pituitary disorders?
Pituitary gland can cause the increase in, sometimes there is some increase in the hormone secretion, sometimes there is some decrease in the hormone secretion. As I told, there is many hormones are secreted by the pituitary gland. When there is excess, like prolactin, when there is excess, we call it a prolactinoma. When there is excess of growth hormone, we call it acromegaly. When there is excess of ACTH, we call it Cushing disease. And there can be excess of the TSH. We called it TSH secreting adenoma. And gonadotropic excess is not very common. So these are the common is the excess presentation. Sometimes there is deficit of them. Like then there is growth hormone deficiency we commonly see in a child having growth hormone deficiency, even as the Dr. Datta described. When there is some traumatic injury, then there can be a growth hormone deficiency even in the adult. And when there is a ACTH deficiency presenting as a adrenal insufficiency, which is a very emergency situation, and sometimes the TSH secreting problem leading to the central hypothyroidism, which we commonly seen in a postmenopausal, female having a early menopause. Commonly we called it a Shan syndrome. We see there is a TSH deficiency there, and there is a pan-hypopituitarism is there. Not only the TSH is less, there is deficiency of other hormones. That is the gonadotropin is also low. There is deficit of other hormone like, as we told, cortisol deficiency there, thyroid deficiency there. But all these, if we properly diagnose, these are the treatable condition. If we properly diagnose them, we can having a medicine for all of them. So there is one part is the excess, one part is the deficit, and we have to properly diagnose it. Once you properly diagnose it, then the treatment is very clear in all the hormonal disorders.
All right, Dr. Datta, which advanced testing procedures or tests are required for accurately diagnosing a pituitary tumor?
Yeah, so pituitary tumors are pretty rare condition. The good thing about it, they are almost always benign tumors. So they're not cancers. We worried ki if I have a pituitary tumor, is it a brain tumor, right? So not all brain tumors are like the last word. Pituitary tumors are actually pretty harmless tumors. One of the most common pituitary tumors are prolactinomas, where the prolactin hormone secretion increases from the pituitary gland. Now, prolactin is a milk-forming hormone. It is typically increased only in a breastfeeding mother. But if my prolactin level goes up in the otherwise state, also in a boy or a girl, that can cause milk discharge from the breast, that can cause menstrual irregularities in women. So this is the most common pituitary adenoma. Most reliable test to localize, to measure the size, exact feature of a pituitary adenoma would be do a simple MRI of the pituitary gland. The magnetic resonance imaging of the pituitary gland is the investigation of choice.
All right, well, we'll slip into a short break right now, but don't go anywhere. We have many more questions to ask the doctors. Stay with us.
मैं सीढ़ी से उतर रहा था, पैर ट्विस्ट हुआ और फ्रैक्चर हो गया। और आपको क्या हुआ?
Cross the distance between darkness and vision. Teach a generation that has lost all hope. Treat a patient from thousands of miles away. None of this was possible
till technology stepped in and made it possible. A selection of the finest stories from across the country where technology comes with a human touch.
Unleash your dreams with Snapdragon in collaboration with NDTV, only on the NDTV network.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love.
You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
What accountability are you talking about?
As long as the core values and principles remain uncompromised. Debates are essential not just for journalism, but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter-opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 22 years old, but it is young at 22.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया.
So let us begin the big fight.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story. India is closely watching it. News that informs and inspires.
The News with Sonia Singh. Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
The only side we're on is yours.
When a glimmer of hope gave way to a new global threat, we were there. As our soldiers squared off against a hostile neighbor,
Welcome back. Let's get you the latest on hormone health, and let's return to our doctors. Dr. Jain, can pituitary gland problems be cured? Is it possible to treat pituitary disorders with medication?
Regarding common thing regarding the endocrine, if you properly diagnose the endocrine problem, most are treatable. More than 95% are treatable to the full extent. Depend on the pituitary problem, whether it is the excess or deficit. As I told, if we know there is deficit, whether it is a growth hormone deficit or there is a adrenal problem, secondary adrenal problem through the ACTH deficiency, or there is central hypothyroidism, if we properly diagnose it, or whether it is a hypogonadism. If we properly diagnose it, for the growth hormone, we have a clearly growth hormone that is available and very good treatment option. Same for the gonadotropin deficiency there. SCG, LHFSH, that is available by the name of SCG and HMG is easily available, and there is a very good result if you properly use them. And third one, like when there is central thyroid deficiency there, with the TSH is low, if we give the thyroid hormone that is easily available, there is complete treatment of the central hypothyroidism. And when there is central hypothyroidism, we should always rule out the other pituitary disorder. Thing with the pituitary, if there is deficiency of one of the hormone, we should always rule out the deficiency whether the other cells are also damaged. As I told there, as clearly told in the previous thing, there is other hormones is secreted like growth hormone, prolactin, cortisol, ACTH leading to the cortisol secretion, and TSH. If there is deficiency of one of the hormone and other is the LHFSH, which take care of our pubertal part. If there is deficiencies of the one of the hormone, we should always look for whether there is deficiency of the other hormones or not. And as I told, when there is deficiency of the ACTH, steroid, exogenous steroid can be given, and that is a completely curable. Regarding the excess, when there is excess of these, like when there is excess of prolactin, that is the prolactinoma already described by the Dr. Datta. Dopamine agonistic is a very good therapy. Probably it is one of the pituitary tumor which didn't need any, most of the time, no any surgical intervention. Dopamine agonistic is easily available, but few of the tumor definitely need surgery. Like when there is excess growth hormone is there, we call it acromegaly. In these cases, we needed surgery. That is the transspinodal surgery we commonly do through the nasal route. And when there is excess of ACTH with leading to the Cushing disease is there, commonly it also needed a surgery that we call the transspinodal surgery. And now if the patient is not, even after the surgery, if they are recurrent, then medical therapy or there is a radiation therapy is also a available option for them. So when there is deficit, we can supplement the hormone from the outside. When there is excess, we can give the treatment that can be a medicine part or surgery or radiation, whatever. Radiation may be gamma knife or external beam radiation. That depends on the patient profile.
All right, Dr. Datta, what is prolactin hormone, and what happens if it's in excess?
Yeah, prolactin is a very fascinating hormone. We all have some amount of prolactin in our body. The normal levels are usually less than 20 nanograms per ml in men and less than 30 nanograms per ml in women. So it's the happiness hormone. It keeps us happy and satisfaction it gives us. In biologic purposes, it levels goes more than 100 nanograms per ml, usually in the postpartum state and during pregnancy. So this is a major milk forming hormone. So a feeding mother needs this hormone to make milk. So in the non-pregnant state and apart from the postpartum state, these hormone levels are very low in our body. Now, rarely we may have a pituitary tumor called prolactinoma, which can lead to very high levels of prolactin, which usually crosses more than 100 nanograms per ml. As Dr. Jain said, this is the most common type of pituitary tumor, and the best part, it is not a cancer. This is a benign tumor, and it is fully curable with medications. If you follow up with your endocrinologist, take the medicine regularly, this tumor will totally melt away and disappear. Sometimes the medicine needs to be taken for maybe 2 to 3 years. But prolactinoma is definitely not the commonest cause of rise in prolactin test. Many people, many patients come to us with reports of raised prolactin levels. So we reassure them, see, it is very unlikely you may be having prolactinoma. So what are the common causes of increased levels of prolactin? That would be, I think, medications. Some common medications which we use over the counter, like maybe ranitidine or famotidine, the antacid medications, they are known to increase prolactin. So we need to take a good medical history of such people and find out whether are they taking any culprit medicines which are going to increase prolactin, what we call them as the drug-induced hyperprolactinemia. So once we have ruled out this, prolactinoma then becomes an important cause, and it's a benign tumor, a fully treatable tumor, and the investigation of choice to determine the size of the tumor we already discussed in the previous question, which is the MRI of the pituitary gland.
All right. Now, Dr. Jain, if you could explain to us, what is the relationship between puberty and the pituitary gland?
This is a change in the body texture of the male or female. Normally in the female, the age of puberty is 8 to 13, commonly we call it. And when then the puberty begins before the 8th year in female, we call it a precocious puberty. And if the puberty is delayed by 13 years, we call delayed puberty. Even the menarche, that is the beginning of menses, delayed by more than 15 years. We have to evaluate. And for the female males, we call the age of puberty is 9 to 14 years. And for the same, if it is before the 9 year, we have to evaluate for the precocious puberty. If it is above the 14 year, there is no development of secondary sexual character. We call it a delayed puberty. And from the hypothalamus, there is secretion of the gonadotropin releasing hormone that by the pituitary leading to the secretion of the LHFSH that cause the development of our secondary sexual character. In the male, commonly there is a appearance of the increase in the testicular volume, penile length increases, there is appearance of the axillary and pubic hair. And there is growth spurt is there, change in the voice is there, appearance of the mustache and other features of the secondary sexual character. And in the female, there is a appearance of the breast with the breast appearance is there with the appearance of the axillary and pubic hair followed by the growth spurt. These are the common part of the puberty. If there is early or delayed puberty, definitely there is commonly a problem with the pituitary or with the gonads. Whether it is a primary or secondary gonadal deficiency or excess, we have to evaluate through a proper endocrinologist.
Dr. Datta, if you could tell us what is the anterior pituitary and what are some of the hormones secreted by the anterior pituitary gland?
Yeah, so the pituitary gland, as you suggested, has two parts. The front part is called the anterior pituitary and the back part is called the posterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary makes 4 or 5 different hormones. Dr. Jain has highlighted some of them. One is the prolactin, we have discussed already. The second hormone is the ACTH hormone, which tells the adrenal gland. Now, this is the gland just sitting above the kidneys. So this makes the stress hormone called cortisol. So when we get angry, when you are afraid of something, our face turns red. So it is the cortisol hormone and other catecholamines which is coming from adrenal gland is driving the response. Our heart rate goes up, we start sweating, we have palpitations. So it's the ACTH from the pituitary gland which drives the cortisol production from the adrenal gland. The third hormone is the growth hormone. The growth hormone is responsible for production of another hormone called IGF-1 from liver, which drives the growth of our bones, and that's how the kids keep on growing till maybe around 15 to 18 years of age. The fourth hormone is the TSH hormone. The TSH hormone tells the thyroid gland, which is sitting under the voice box in front of the neck, to make thyroid hormones like the T3 and the T4 hormones. So unless the pituitary gland makes sufficient TSH, the thyroid gland won't know that they have to make the thyroid hormones. And we know that the thyroid hormones are critical to maintain the metabolism of our body so that we have sufficient energy production in our body. So it's the master regulator. It controls all the different glands of our body. Now, this is about anterior pituitary. Now we have something called the posterior pituitary gland. The posterior pituitary gland has a major role in regulating the fluid homeostasis, how much water should be there in our body. So it secretes a hormone called the ADH, or the antidiuretic hormone, which takes care of the optimal amount of fluids in the body. A typical adult human body has around 5 to 6 liters of body fluids, which is predominantly in the form of blood. So if there is too less amount of fluid in our body, our blood pressure will fall. If there is too much of fluid in the body, we'll bloat up, will appear swollen. So the ADH hormone guides our kidneys and tells our kidneys to how much water to retain or how much water to throw away, how much salt to retain and how much salt to throw away. So that's the beauty of pituitary gland. It's like the big boss. It controls all the other glands and make them work together so that the body as a whole becomes very happy. It remains happy and efficient.
Right. Dr. Jain, if you could tell us, what are the symptoms of an abnormal pituitary gland?
Same thing. There is a 5 hormones already. We're describing it since last 20 minutes. There is 5 hormones secreting. Depend on which hormone is excess or deficit. When there is excess of prolactin, commonly in the female, it presents as a galactorrhea. Even decreased libido is there. Irregular menses is there. Symptoms of mass lesion, where headache may be there. This headache or vision defect can be part of any pituitary tumor. When the size increases, a small tumor can cause the headache. When there is enlargement compressing the tumor, compressing the optic nerve, can cause even the vision problem. So this is a common with the prolactinoma. Like the growth hormone, excess is there. We know when there is excess, there is acromegaly. We call it acromegaly. And regarding acromegaly, same first is the mass effect, causing the headache, nausea, vomiting, followed by change in the vision. Vision में problem हो सकती है. इसके अलावा growth hormone is working on many other parts, like someone having a secondary diabetic, joint pain is there, increase in the triglyceride is there, and there is a increased growth of the bone mass. So even the mandible goes out, हाथ बड़े बड़े, there is enlargement of the hands, enlargement of foot, change in the footwear size. If we are wearing the rings, then rings being tight, there is increased back secretion, there is recurrent ear closing is there. And when there is deficiency of the growth hormone, commonly it is present as in the pediatric age group with a growth hormone deficit, which can be easily rectified by a growth hormone, exogenous growth hormone treatment. And now going to the third one, that is a TSH secreting exogenous tumor. When there is TSH secreting thyroid adenoma, adenoma as a tumor causing the same symptom, depend on their size. And when there is deficiency there of the TSH secreting cells, then hypothyroidism there. We have all the symptoms of hypothyroidism. But here, if we do the lab test, there is decrease in the T3 is there, T4 is low, and the TSH can be low and normal. So this is a central thyroid deficiency is there, and all the symptoms of hypothyroidism that we know, whether it is a dry skin, goiter is absent. This is very clear. When there is primary hypothyroidism, goiter is there, but when there is central hypothyroidism, goiter is absent. And T3, T4 is low, and TSH is also low or normal. And all the features of primary hypothyroid that we see in a hypothyroidism, seen in a patient having a TSH deficiency. And always when there is, I told in the beginning, when there is a central pituitary hormone deficiency, we should always rule out whether the other hormone is also deficit or not. So when there is central hypothyroidism, we should always rule out the adrenal deficiency, that is the ACTH deficiency, because this is the emergency situation and can present as a hypotension, low BP can present in the emergency department. Patient with any illness, any sickness, patient can present to the emergency department. And when there is deficit of the gonadotropin, patient can present with a delayed puberty, what we call it the delayed puberty or absent one. There can be, if this gonadotropin deficiency occur after some in the adulthood, after probably some accident or sine qua non injury. So in the follow-up can present with the gonadotropin deficiency with low libido, features of metabolic syndrome, with poor mustache growth and beard growth. This can be secondary presentation also of the gonadotropin deficiency.
All right. Well, thank you so much, doctors. We're completely out of time. Sorry to interrupt you there. We'll have to wrap the show. But thank you, doctors, for joining us. And thank you all for watching at home.
Cross the distance between darkness and vision. Teach a generation that has lost all hope. Treat a patient from thousands of miles away. None of this was possible
till technology stepped in and made it possible. A selection of the finest stories from across the country where technology comes with a human touch.
Unleash your dreams with Snapdragon in collaboration with NDTV, only on the NDTV network.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love.
You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
What accountability are you talking about?
As long as the core values and principles remain uncompromised. Debates are essential not just for journalism, but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter-opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 22 years old, but it is young at 22.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया.
So let us begin the big fight.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story. India is closely watching it. News that informs and inspires.
The news with Sonia Singh. Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
The only side we're on is yours.
When a glimmer of hope gave way to a new global threat, we were there. As our soldiers squared off against a hostile neighbor for yet another freezing winter, we were there. When brutality overwhelmed justice and a mockery was made of the rule of law, we were there. When the death of our first Chief of Defence Staff united our nation, we were there. Hope, justice, the truth. Left, right and centre with me, Vishnu Shobh, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. on NDTV 24/7.
Cross the distance between darkness and vision. Teach a generation that has lost all hope. Treat a patient from thousands of miles away. None of this was possible
till technology stepped in and made.
Hello and welcome. The big breaking news right now. Victoria Gauri was sworn in as additional judge of the Madras High Court this morning, even as the Supreme Court heard petitions against her elevation. Eventually, the Supreme Court dismissed the petition against Victoria Gauri being sworn in as a High Court justice. Now, there was a huge controversy after reports emerged about her alleged affiliation to the BJP and her alleged hate speeches made by her in interviews against minority communities, Christians and Muslims. Bar members of the Madras High Court had written to the Chief Justice of India seeking a recall of the recommendation made for appointing Gauri as an additional judge of the High Court, alleging she had made these hate speeches against Christians and Muslims. And that hearing took place this morning in the Supreme Court, even as you can see her swearing in took place. She took oath as a High Court justice. Let's just listen into that swearing in.
Lakshmana Chandra Victoria Gauri,
by law established,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by I, Lakshmana Chandra Victoria Gauri,
having been appointed as Additional Judge of the High Court of Madras,
having been appointed as Additional Judge of the High Court of Madras,
do swear in the name of God
do swear in the name of God
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established,
that I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India,
that I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India,
that I will duly and faithfully and to the best of my ability, knowledge and judgment
that I will duly and faithfully and to the best of my ability, knowledge and judgment
perform the duties of my office without fear or favor,
perform the duties of my office without fear or favor,
affection or ill will,
and that
I will uphold the Constitution and the laws.
And that I will uphold the Constitution and the laws.
Victoria Gauri taking oath as the Additional Justice of the Madras High Court. There was much, news about her swearing in this morning as it had been challenged in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court hearing taking place at the same time. And finally, the Supreme Court dismissing the petitions against her elevation. Let's first go across to Sunil for more on that. And Sunil, tell us what happened in the Supreme Court.
Well, in fact, despite all those rumors about preponement at 9:50, 9:30, 10 o'clock, finally it was listed as per the convention. Justice Sanjeev Khanna as well as Justice Gawai hearing the matter, preponement by around 5 minutes at 10:25 before the swearing in, and really listening for nearly half an hour to the various arguments put out by the lawyers of the Madras High Court through their counsel, Raju Ramachandran and Mr. Anand Grover, about what they had to say. One was on the question of eligibility, about the fact that a presumption that the collegium might have not known about the hate speeches that she had made and whether that information was before them. The judges arguing for a long time about the fact that people with political affiliations have become judges before. There have been very clear cases and they cited a number of them which was conceded. It was a question about eligibility, about the fact whether these inputs were given to the collegium or not. The judges who were sitting on the bench saying very categorically that they have to work within the four corners of their system and they can't direct a petition to the collegium to say that have you listened to inputs or not. It's an assumption. They also talked about the fact that they are consulting judges before this appointment that takes place. There is a robust system in terms of appointment of additional High Court judges, and clearly the consulting judges would have been given these inputs. The point that is being made, even though there was no complaint against her in the State Bar Council or the Bar Council of India, was that these inputs in terms of what we've seen in terms of social posts were factored in or not. In fact, even no less than the judges sitting on the bench, talking about Justice John Satyan, which was brought up when he said they had posted and they're saying that the collegium had put its recommendation and reiteration once again. So finally, after hearing the to and fro, the two judges not inclined, dismissing the petition and will give reasons for why they're dismissing the petition at a later stage, setting the stage for the swearing in, which we just witnessed a short while back of Victoria Gauri as an additional High Court judge. Just one more point, Gargi, which the judges continued to say, was that this is the appointment of an additional High Court judge, and that will need to be confirmed at a later stage depending on her performance. So it's not clearly a full appointment, but nevertheless the system is robust according to the Supreme Court.
All right, so massive controversy ahead of that appointment, that swearing in. And Sam, well, it's now all over, and she was sworn in even as the hearing took place, and eventually the hearing dismissed, even though there was so much news ahead of this. Also, you had 54 lawyers of the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court writing in support of her elevation as additional justice.
That's right. Those lawyers who supported or endorsed her recommendation to elevate her as an additional judge of the Madras High Court, they cited that in the past there have been cases where lawyers with political affiliation have been appointed as additional judges or judges. And this particular opposition from a section of senior lawyers from the Madras High Court, they say, is purely out of what they call vendetta, what they call political animosity, and malified intent, as they call it. And we spoke to a few of them after this development, after Miss Victoria Gauri was sworn in as an additional judge, first among the 5 members. And they say they're quite happy, and they knew this would happen. And those who opposed her, we spoke to them, they say they did everything what they felt to be untenable in their words, and they say they will only react after they get the complete details of this particular order by the Supreme Court. And here there was slight delay in the beginning as the Supreme Court heard it, but after some delay, the Chief Justice in charge of the Madras High Court sworn in Ms. Victoria Gauri, first among the 5 judges, 4 members as additional judges, and they will have to wait. But there were some protests before the swearing in at the entrance of the Madras High Court, particularly by a group of senior lawyers who opposed, who wrote to the Collegium as well as to the President, asking the recommendation to be recalled and asking the President not to accept it, saying that this kind of an alleged hate speech, a person of that kind of a record should not be allowed to become a judge or an additional judge, saying that minorities in particular, they raise the question of minority litigants, would they get justice if their case were to come before her. But now it's all sorted. We'll have to wait for the details on what grounds the Supreme Court had stood its ground to allow Ms. Victoria Gauri to be sworn in as an additional judge.
All right, Sam, thanks so much for joining us with all those details and developments. So Victoria Gauri, they're sworn in as an additional justice of the Madras High Court. Now the big international. All right, so there you can see, so as we said, both things took place side by side. You had Victoria Gauri being sworn in even as the arguments against her appointment, her elevation were being made in the Supreme Court to the bench of Justice Gawai and Justice Sanjeev Khanna. And it's interesting, there were 5 lawyers who were being elevated to the High Court this morning. And when the function began, the first name to be called out was of Victoria Gauri, and she was the first to be sworn in as additional Madras High Court Justice. And just shortly after her swearing in, the petition was also dismissed in the Supreme Court. Now let's get to the latest from Turkey, where the major earthquake which struck South Turkey and Syria has more than 4,300 people have died. Thousands of buildings have been flattened, and rescuers are really racing against time to pull any survivors from the rubble. It's also been complicated, and a big challenge for the rescuers is the cold weather and rain also in some parts. Multi-story apartment buildings full of residents were among the 5,606 structures which have been reduced to rubble, while Syria also announced dozens of collapses as well as damage to archaeological sites in Aleppo. Well, there you can see the rescue efforts, and take a look at this CCTV from inside a shop at the time that the earthquake 7.8 magnitude hit, and you can just see how the shelves are shaking and objects are falling off those shelves. What's also heartening to see is the volunteers who are now rushing to help in that rescue effort. Hundreds of volunteers, rescue workers, NGO members are all rushing at the Istanbul airport to aid the efforts in southern Turkey. There you can see this video that shows so many of them with their backpacks in hand trying to enter the terminal. And a woman was brought out alive from the rubble in Diyarbakir on Monday evening. Rescue searched through the frigid night, hoping to pull more survivors from the rubble. Now, India as well has sent humanitarian assistance and disaster relief capabilities are in action. The first batch of earthquake relief material has left for Turkey along with NDRF search and rescue teams, specially trained dog squads, medical supplies, drilling machines and other necessary equipment.
Yes, as you know, a massive earthquake took place in Turkey and Syria today morning, and based on the inputs, a lot of casualties have occurred. So the government of India, as a measure of HADR, that is the humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations that we do, the government has taken a decision to send 2 teams of NDRF to Turkey to help us in conducting the rescue and relief operations. So about 101 persons from 2 teams, one of the 8th Battalion at Ghaziabad and the other from 2nd Battalion at Kolkata, they will be going for this mission.
Well, let's get to the latest now from Parliament, and both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha have been adjourned till 12. Lok Sabha adjourned till 12. Rajya Sabha observed a minute of silence in memory of those who lost their lives in the devastating earthquake in Turkey and Syria, and it too has been adjourned. Let's go across to Arvind for more. All right, we will go across to Arvind. Now, do remember there have been protests in Parliament over the last couple of days as opposition parties have been demanding a joint parliamentary committee to look into the allegations made by the Hindenburg report review against the Adani Group. Let's go across to Arvind for more on this story. And Arvind, tell us what happened in Parliament.
Guardian, both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, the proceedings have been adjourned till 12 noon after the opposition had its meeting. The opposition parties had a meeting at the office of Leader of Opposition in Rajya Sabha, Mallikarjun Kharge. They had decided to cooperate with the proceedings. They will be joining the discussion on motion of thanks on President's address from today, and that's why the opposition parties decided to cooperate with the proceedings. Only 2 parties still against cooperating with the proceedings, one Aam Aadmi Party and second one BRF. Both these parties feel that they should not cooperate with the proceedings and that they should be forcing for a discussion on Hindenburg report on Adani Group of companies instead of taking part in the discussion on most of the President's address. And that's why the opposition parties had this meeting, and the majority of the opposition parties have decided to cooperate with the proceedings. So when the proceedings began at around 11 a.m. in both the houses, opposition members were on their legs regarding the adjournment motions that they have moved, but both in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, in both the houses, their adjournment, the request for adjournment motions have been rejected. So at around 12 noon, when the House proceedings began, our sources say that the opposition parties will cooperate with the proceedings. So in both the houses, the discussion on motion of thanks on President's address will begin in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha at around 12 noon.
All right, so both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha have been adjourned this after ruckus this morning till noon. Both houses have been adjourned.
सरकार जवाब देती है, अच्छी परंपराएं स्थापित करे सदन में.
All right, so there you could see the proceedings in the Lok Sabha earlier this morning. We'll slip into a short break and return with more. Stay with us.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love.
You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
What accountability are you talking about?
As long as the core values and principles remain uncompromised. Debates are essential not just for journalism but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter-opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 22 years old, but it is young at 22.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया.
So let us begin the big fight.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story. India is closely watching it. News that informs and inspires.
The News with Sonia Singh. Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
The only side we're on is yours.
When a glimmer of hope gave way to a new global threat, we were there. As our soldiers squared off against a hostile neighbor for yet another freezing winter, we were there. When brutality overwhelmed justice and a mockery was made of the rule of law, we were there. When the death of our first Chief of Defence Staff united our nation, we were there. Hope, justice, the truth. Left, right and centre with me, Vishnu Shobh, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. on NDTV 24/7.
Cross the distance between darkness and vision. Teach a generation that has lost all hope. Treat a patient from thousands of miles away. None of this was possible
till technology stepped in and made it possible. A selection of the finest stories from across the country where technology comes with a human touch.
Unleash your dreams with Snapdragon in collaboration with NDTV, only on the NDTV network.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love.
You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
What accountability are you talking about?
As long as the core values and principles remain uncompromised. Debates are essential not just for journalism but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter-opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 22 years old, but it is young at 22.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया.
So let us begin the big fight.
Welcome back. Protests by the Aam Aadmi Party is taking place. In fact, today there are going to be rival protests by the BJP and Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi. And this is over the disruption in the mayor polls for a third time, which took place yesterday in the House of the Municipal Corporation of Delhi. It failed to conduct the mayor's election for a third time in 1 month. And this is after a ruckus. Both the BJP and Aam Aadmi Party blaming the other for the ruckus and disruption that led to the postponement yet again of the polls for the mayor of Delhi, so the national capital of the country, without a mayor till now, even though the MCD elections took place such a long time ago, and it's been weeks and over a month in fact, and as well as the budget has not been passed for the MCD yet. And this is being held up after continuous disruptions every time the MCD assembles to elect the mayor of Delhi. And it'll obviously be someone from the Aam Aadmi Party candidate, as they won the elections and dislodged the BJP for the first time after 15 years. After 15 years, the BJP was dislodged as the majority party in the Delhi municipal department with this election. However, there has been continuous disruption of the gathering at the MCD assembly. Well, let's go across to Vedant now for more. And Vedant, so actually today you have both the Aam Aadmi Party, this right now is the Aam Aadmi Party protest, but both parties are protesting against the other and blaming them for the disruption in the mayoral elections.
Well, absolutely. Okay. Right, absolutely, Gargi. In fact, a battle of protests here in the national capital today. The Aam Aadmi Party protesting outside the BJP headquarters. Let's in fact get in a word from Aam Aadmi Party Saurabh Bhardwaj. Sir, the Delhi deadlock really continues. The Aam Aadmi Party is protesting outside the BJP headquarters. The BJP also protesting, but Delhi is still without a mayor. That's the bottom line. After 2 months of the MCD elections, Delhi is still without a mayor, and it's the Aam Aadmi Party's responsibility, moral responsibility as well, I'm sure.
So, it is very unfortunate that Delhi people who have elected Aam Aadmi Party as a majority party in the Delhi MCD has been kept out of power due to conspiracies hatched by none than the central government of India. Now we are in the Supreme Court. We mentioned our case in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court readily agreed to listen to our petition tomorrow, because it is blatant illegality what BJP is trying to push through their pro-term mayor. The pro-term mayor is so biased that she is saying that against the constitutional provisions, against the provisions of DMC Act, the nominated councillors will vote and the elected MLAs will not vote.
Right, so in a sense defying the DMC Act. But another thing that the Aam Aadmi Party has mentioned is that the BJP has also tried to poach some of its councillors, offering multiple crores to the councillors. How are you going to prove that? Because you haven't presented any proof as far as that is concerned, that allegation is concerned.
Look, we are in the court of law. When the court will ask for evidence, we will provide ample evidence. Moreover, we have evidences in terms of video recordings of yesterday's House proceedings, where it can be seen that it is only the BJP councillors who were creating ruckus. It was the BJP councillors who were shouting slogans. It was the BJP's pro-term mayor who basically suspended the House in a day. Aam Aadmi Party councillors were just sitting peacefully on their chairs. They did not even move. So this will be so open to the court to see that probably BJP can manipulate people by telling lies, but you cannot manipulate the court of law and the highest court of law.
Right. So Gargi, as you were in the Aam Aadmi Party continues to say that the BJP is trying to influence the mayoral elections, and here if I can just ask my camera person to show you, protests continue here in the national capital, just right outside the BJP headquarters. In fact, very interestingly, the BJP will also march from the headquarters in ITU to the Aam Aadmi Party headquarters in Rouse Avenue. So of course, it's a battle of protests, as I said, in the national capital today. But the fact of the matter is that 2 months down the line, the people of Delhi have given their mandate, and Delhi is still without a mayor. So that is what something, that's something that is absolutely unfortunate for the residents of Delhi.
All right, thanks so much, Vedanta, for joining us with that. So there you can see protests in the national capital. This is the Aam Aadmi Party protesting against the BJP. Now, more trouble for the Congress in Maharashtra, where the senior leader Bala Saheb Thorat has resigned from the post of Maharashtra Congress Legislative Party, and this a day after he had conveyed to the High Command, written to Mallikarjun Kharge, that he cannot work with Nana Patole. Let's go across to Sohit for more. And Sohit, tell us more about this crisis.
The entire crisis happened after the MSC elections, the election for the Legislative Council, which recently happened. Over there, several allegations were made not only against Bala Saheb Thorat, but also against his family members. So Bala Saheb Thorat's close family relative, Satyajit Tambe, wanted to contest the election, but he wasn't given a ticket, but his father, Sudhir Tambe, was given a ticket. Now, it is being alleged that that was done purposely to create trouble within the family. However, Sudhir Tambe did not contest the election, and Satyajit Tambe contested the election as an independent candidate, and he also won the election. Now, after that, Bala Saheb Thorat had written a letter to the High Command saying that it is difficult to work with Nana Patole, and now what we know is that Bala Saheb Thorat, the senior most Congress leader who has been an 8-time MLA from Sangamner, several times he has been a cabinet minister, and he was also the Congress Legislative Party leader of Maharashtra, the Congress CLP leader. He has resigned from that post. Now, remember that he was the CLP leader even when Mahavikas Aghadi Alliance was formed, and he was the one taking calls. at that time. But now he has resigned from that post, which shows that all is not well in the Congress. And this happens a day after he has written a letter to the High Command, the party High Command in Delhi, after which now Balasaheb Thorat, the senior-most Congress leader, and he was also the CLP leader of the party in Maharashtra, has resigned from his post.
All right. Thanks so much, Sohit, for joining us with those details. So, a crisis there for the Congress in Maharashtra. News from Jammu and Kashmir now. An anti-encroachment drive by the Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory Administration has snowballed into a major controversy. The opposition accused the administration of targeting poor and political opponents. In the name of this anti-encroachment drive, there are protests at multiple places as land cultivated and inhabited by people for generations has been declared illegal encroachment. The government has directed all district collectors to retrieve state land, leased land and common use land, and also grazing land occupied by people. It's time for us to slip into a short break. More news coming up on NDTV. Do stay with us.
Ritika.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story. India is closely watching it. News that informs and inspires.
The news with Sonia Singh. Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
The only side we're on is yours.
When a glimmer of hope gave way to a new global threat, we were there. As our soldiers squared off against a hostile neighbor for yet another freezing winter, we were there. When brutality overwhelmed justice and a mockery was made of the rule of law, we were there. When the death of our first Chief of Defence Staff united our nation, we were there. Hope, justice, the truth. Left, right and centre with me, Vishnu Shobh, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. on NDTV 24/7.
Cross the distance between darkness and vision. Teach a generation that has lost all hope. Treat a patient from thousands of miles away. None of this was possible
till technology stepped in and made it possible. A selection of the finest stories from across the country where technology comes with a human touch.
Unleash your dreams with Snapdragon in collaboration with NDTV. Only on the NDTV network.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love.
You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
What accountability are you talking about?
As long as the core values and principles remain uncompromised. Debates are essential not just for journalism, but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter-opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 22 years old, but it is young at 22.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने
Hello and welcome to our special show. I am Priyanshi Sharma. Life is valuable and precious. Being able to revive a person's heart to save their life will provide one with immense satisfaction. It's a sad but a true fact that the number of people dying from cardiovascular diseases is steadily rising in India. Now, most of these cardiac deaths are sudden and on the spot. It is possible to prevent these sudden cardiac deaths if they receive immediate medical attention and CPR. The recent incidences of some celebrities collapsing suddenly and passing away due to a heart attack are concerning and shocking. There is an alarming rise in the number of young patients with heart attacks and sudden cardiac arrests. What is equally scary is that sudden cardiac deaths may happen in people who have no known history of a heart disease. The risk is higher for patients with existing heart diseases. In almost every family, we have at least one family member with a heart disease. Can one make himself or herself capable enough to save a life in an emergency situation? The answer is yes. It is possible if you're well trained in CPR. Many adults in cardiac arrest can be revived with intact neurologic function if the bystanders provide them immediate CPR. Raising public awareness and understanding of the practical applications of CPR is an essential strategy to increase the success rate of CPRs in cardiac arrest cases. Save a Life is an initiative through which people will be made aware of the early signs and symptoms of cardiac arrest, train them on CPR, and highlight the role of CPR in saving a life. Today, we have with us eminent cardiologists who can help us understand the sudden cardiac deaths recently and the role of CPR to revive and save a life. Let me take a moment to welcome our guest, Dr. Dibya Ranjan Bahera, who is a consultant of cardiology at AMRI hospitals in Bhubaneswar. We also have Dr. Harsha Jeevan, who is an interventional cardiologist of Medical Trust Hospital in Kochi. And we also have Dr. Ranjit Patil, who is a consulting and interventional cardiologist at Baner Heart Institute in Pune. If I can come to you, Dr. Bahera, first. Cardiovascular diseases are the leading cause of death worldwide, and they also have one of the most expensive treatments. Which cardiovascular diseases are preventable and which are not?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. You know that cardiac diseases are on rise day by day, and many celebrities are already told by the anchor that it is on the rise. So we should know that which are preventable and which are not preventable. Most of the cardiac diseases are preventable. Except the genetic ones and those who are there from the birth, that we called as congenital heart defects. So those diseases are not preventable. But apart from that, majority of the diseases which we acquire, and that is called as atherosclerotic coronary artery disease, atherosclerotic cerebral vascular disease like stroke, brain strokes, and heart attacks, they are largely 99% preventable. So if you take good amount of rest, you do regular exercise, you do a proper lifestyle, and you regularly check your parameters regularly, then this preventable disease is largely prevented. And today this is rise the heart attacks, and that is the most common cause of death worldwide. You know, the most number one killer, if you tell, it is heart attacks. But although it is number one killer, it is 90% preventable. So we should be aware of that.
Important to note here. And also, Dr. Jeevan, heart health deteriorates with age, but still we can see that aged people who are perfectly healthy without any cardiac ailments. What can be the reason behind it?
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy to be on the show. It's an interesting question. The first thing to say is if you've got good genetics, that you've got very good ancestors who have got very long lifestyle, have heart disease, there's a good chance that if you are taking care of your heart health by having, like Dr. Behra, a good healthy lifestyle, balanced diet, stress reduction with yoga and meditation, all these go a long way in your heart health. An important thing to remember is that you have to keep checking on your heart once in a while. That is, you check if you've got blood pressure, sugar, if you've got cholesterol. All these things actually play a role in making a block. It's essentially a fight between the blocking process or the atherosclerotic process and the body's defense and your lifestyle. So if you have a good lifestyle which is able to overcome these other factors like stress or hypertension and dyslipidemia, that is cholesterol levels, then you tend to have a longer, healthy heart. And that's essentially the aim over a long period of time. And if you find that there is some kind of a disease, for example, a block, you can look for further testing like an echocardiogram or a treadmill test. This will give you an idea. You need to go for further invasive testing like a coronary angiogram to look at the blocks and, if necessary, treat them. The final pathway keep your ejection fraction or your heart pumping as good as possible, and that is what we need to do over a long period of time with these checkups.
So definitely great advice for all of us to remain healthy for longer. And Dr. Patil, sleep apnea is a potentially serious sleep disorder. Is there any link between sleep apnea and heart disease? And how can someone prevent heart diseases if he or she is suffering from sleep apnea already?
Yeah, good afternoon. You have thrown a light on one of the most neglected issue with cardiovascular diseases. Almost incidence of sleep apnea is double in male as compared to female. It's like 34% of male affected and 17% of female. Sleep apnea and heart diseases has got a close link in the form of patient can have resistant hypertension itself because of the obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. Patients can have cerebrovascular events, heart failure, arrhythmias. It can be heart rate fast arrhythmia or slow heart rate arrhythmias and coronary artery disease. Most of the time, this patient, they will present with snoring, excessive sleepiness during the daytime, and in the night time, whosoever is sleeping along with them, they will notice that there is a pause in their breathing activity, and suddenly they will start rapid breathing. So something which can be very well easily diagnosed and most of the time neglected condition is obstructive sleep apnea. Now, almost 30% of patients who are hypertensive, they will have obstructive sleep apnea. And if your blood pressure is not controlled despite of taking 3 antihypertensive medicine, of which one is a diuretic class of the drug, almost 80% of them, that is called as resistant hypertension, will have obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. Coronary artery disease itself is because of the obstructive sleep apnea syndrome aggravated as there is increased demand of oxygen and there is a fall in demand of oxygen to the heart and excessive demand of oxygen requirement for the heart, which is contracting vigorously against the high blood pressure itself, and this heart is hypertrophied heart. Almost 60% of patients with obstructive sleep apnea syndrome will have heart failure, and as I discussed, sudden cardiac death because of the obstructive sleep apnea syndrome in the form of arrhythmias, which are predominantly, these people will have underlying heart disease, these people will have intermittent hypoxia, that is low oxygen, they will have acidosis in their body, this patient will have excessive sympathetic surge, and another etiology is excessive change in intrathoracic pressure, which is responsible for these arrhythmias. This obstructive sleep apnea is aggravated if you are lying down on your back and if the patient is alcoholic. This is very well prevented, can be diagnosed by doing the sleep studies either or clinical diagnosis also. This patient can be treated by some small surgical corrective procedure or some machines like CPAP machine for obstructive sleep apnea. We can very well prevent this death and we can prevent sudden cardiac death if treated and diagnosed rightly. This is one of the most neglected topic of sudden cardiac death.
Right, of course, it's, as you mentioned, one of the most neglected topics. Now, my next question to you, Dr. Behera, heart attack has remained a major health concern around the world. But it is only recently that a rising number of heart attacks among the young population are being reported. So why have heart attacks become so prevalent among young people?
So this is very, very important question, particularly for today, that many young celebrities, young persons are dying. You know, India is a country which is transforming from a developing towards a developed country. So many people, and India is full of young population. So, but the problem is this young population are under a lot of stress. They are thinking that overnight they will achieve their goals, and for that they are under a lot of stress. First, we should know that what are the causes of heart attack. So the number one cause is diabetes. You know, India is now the diabetic capital of the world. So almost every alternate person in our country, every 1 in 3 person in our country is diabetic. So if you are not properly controlling your diabetes, you are giving rise to atherosclerotic disease or heart attacks. Second most important factor is blood pressure, high blood pressure, which called is that hypertension. If you are not properly checking your blood pressure and neglecting it, so also this blood pressure is also known as the silent killer of the your silent killer. So it is the number 2 cause. Number 3rd cause is high cholesterol, or we call it dyslipidemia. So you know that LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol, if it is increased and that is deposited in your coronary arteries, and they amount of coronary artery blockages, and leads to stroke or heart attack. Number 4th cause is smoking. You know, every this out of stress or out of something, this particularly the young mass, they are very much fascinated towards smoking and also many illicit drug abusing. So these factors lead to sudden spasm in your coronary artery. That means coronary artery suddenly go into spasm, or it is suddenly the area is decreased. It is completely blocked, and you get sudden heart attack. Number 4th cause is stress, which I've already mentioned. Then this is the next cause is the increased sedentary lifestyle. You know, many of the youths are doing work from home, particularly in Corona era. You know, and when they are doing sedentary lifestyle, they are particularly resting at home. They are doing an office job in a table and chair. They are not doing any kind of exercise. So the sedentary lifestyle is also equivalent to smoking. So there is a very lack of exercise. Abdominal obesity, you know, many of their children also now starting taking many junk foods and all. They are taking so much of obesity, particularly the fat around your belly, that is known as abdominal obesity. So all these things, all these factors, along with alcohol, all illicit drugs, above all, your awareness level is less. You are not properly checking your blood pressure at particular time. You are not checking your sugar at time. So if all these factors being checked and being properly monitored, and you take adequate steps to, then this will not happen, that your heart attack will never happen. And you should decrease particularly your sleep. You should that nowadays so much of social media and all very common source of stress and anxiety in young people. So all those things, if you properly maintain and properly regulate it, it will definitely prevent the incidence of heart attack in today's era.
Right, that's very important advice, of course, for all of us. And Dr. Jeevan, many heart attack patients die before they reach a hospital. And the sooner the person gets to the emergency room, the better the chances of survival are. So prompt medical treatment reduces the amount of heart damage. So can a person help himself during a heart attack? And in how much time should the treatment start?
See, ideally, the treatment should start immediately. The first question to answer is, are you having a heart attack? So you need to know the symptoms of a heart attack. If you're having a chest pain, which is quite severe, it's radiating to your shoulders or your arms, to your neck or to back. If there is association, you're feeling giddy or there is a loss of consciousness, it means that there is something seriously wrong. You need to most of the happens when people think about it as a gastric problem or a musculoskeletal problem, and they think we'll wait it out, let's see how it goes. So the first rule is, if you have a doubt, any of these symptoms, go to a doctor. That eliminates most of the delay. The second thing, most importantly, call for help. Do not drive. Call a friend or an ambulance and reach the hospital immediately. Once you reach the hospital, them your symptoms clearly, and they'll usually do an ECG as the first test, and they'll see what is wrong with the ECG, and they'll see if you've got a heart attack or is it any other common illness like a gastric problem, like I said. But if they find that there is a change in your ECG, then they'll have to proceed with further testing like a cardiac enzyme test or send you to the ICU and look for a block with a coronary angiogram, or the other alternative is a clot dissolving medication called a thrombolytic. All these actually are a pathway which has been well established, and it helps to define how your treatment strategy should be. And once you have an angiogram, you may have one block or multiple blocks. The cardiologist will decide whether you need to have angioplasty or a stent. And the current of care is something called a primary angioplasty, where the blocks are immediately cleared, which improves the blood flow to the myocardium or the muscle of the heart and protects your heart from other rhythm disturbances and other problems. The goal is first to find out, to remember that if you have any symptoms, think about a heart attack, get an ECG, reach a hospital as soon as possible, And most importantly, do not drive, ask somebody to take you there. Another thing you should remember in this thing is if you have aspirin, it can be chewed. If you're sure you're having symptoms, that can be one of the first medications at home. If you already have got an angioplasty or you're already a heart patient, your doctor would have given you something called a nitrate, which is under the tongue. Once you keep it under the tongue, you need to rest or lie down, don't run around, and then reach the hospital.
Right, that information, of course, important for all of us. And we'll just pause for a very short break now, but continue this discussion on the other side. Stay tuned.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story. India is closely watching it. News that informs and inspires.
The news with Sonia Singh. Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
The only side we're on is yours.
When a glimmer of hope gave way to a new global threat, we were there. As our soldiers squared off against a hostile neighbor for yet another freezing winter, we were there. When brutality overwhelmed justice and a mockery was made of the rule of law, we were there. When the death of our first Chief of Defence Staff united our nation, we were there. Hope, justice, the truth. Left, right and centre with me, Vishnu Shom, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. on NDTV 24/7.
Cross the distance between darkness and vision. Teach a generation that has lost all hope. Treat a patient from thousands of miles away. None of this was possible
till technology stepped in and made it possible. A selection of the finest stories from across the country where technology comes with a human touch.
Unleash your dreams with Snapdragon in collaboration with NDTV, only on the NDTV network.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love.
You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
What accountability are you talking about?
As long as the core values and principles remain uncompromised. Debates are essential not just for journalism, but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter-opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 22 years old, but it is young at 22.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया.
So let us begin the big fight.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story. India is closely watching.
Welcome back to our special show focusing on cardiac arrest and means of preventing it. We're joined by eminent cardiologists on the show. And Dr. Patil, people spend some time recovering in the hospital after any cardiac procedure, but they need to continue taking care of themselves at home. And it may be a bit of an adjustment to go from your normal routine to adjust your activities after a heart surgery, but it can be done. What care should be taken post-cardiac procedures?
This is, I think, again, a very important thing, because in hospital, there is always a support and assistant to you in your treatment, and whatever all your doubts and all that, they are clarified. But once you are at home, it is you, your support, home support, and at times hospital can also give online support, so that a patient should take care of himself in the form of, first, never stop your cardiac medicines. as per your doctor's advice, you should continue your medicines. And whenever he will say to stop or he will say to reduce the doses, according to his advice, patient should follow, his treating doctor's advice should be followed. Second thing, every patient should have, in case of emergency, number with him. In case of emergency, your doctor's number, your cardiologist number, his assistant's number, or hospital's emergency room number, and hospital's ambulance number. This emergency number should be there with the patient. Third thing, when you are discharged after your procedure, let it be a bypass surgery, let it be a angioplasty procedure, you should not suddenly restart your activities. It should be a gradual resumption of activities, but you should do regular exercises, and that too under somebody's supervision. If suppose there is a cardiac rehabilitation program allocated to you, you should strictly follow to that. Otherwise, take the help of your treating cardiologist in gradual resumption of your activities. Fourth thing, I'll advise a dietary advice, as whatever is been dietary advice given to you, because lifestyle modification, as we have discussed already, gradual resumption of activity, patient should stop smoking or tobacco in any form. He should regularly check his blood pressure, blood sugar at home, because nowadays devices are available. Even cholesterol should be monitored regularly. Strict dietary advice to be followed as given by your dietitian. And along with that, patient should be involved in activities like yoga, pranayam, regular exercise, and some relaxation activities. They should meet friends, family members. They should be doing some recreational activities. They should pursue their hobbies. And one more important thing, if you are reading about your disease condition, get a proper information, because nowadays collecting information from social media and all that may be harmful at times. So if somebody follows these guidelines, these steps, and regular follow-up with your doctor as advised by him, by your cardiologist, I think this process will be smooth.
And Dr. Behera, it's still a grave shock to hear that apparently a healthy person underwent a cardiac arrest. Can extreme stress cause cardiac arrest? And what are the other factors that can be responsible for cardiac arrest along with stress?
Yeah, you know that stress is one of the common factors nowadays for immediate coronary heart disease attack, that is known as cardiac arrest. What happens is that in the coronary artery there is atherosclerotic plaques, and in that plaques the upper covering is very thinner one. Once you are under immediate stress, or your body or mind cannot bear that stress, so what will happen, that plaque ruptures and that coronary arteries get immediately blocked, causing severe heart attack. So stress is definitely the most common. And second is smoking. If you smoke, also the same thing, the upper layer or the endothelium in that coronary artery is ruptured, and you get plaque rupture, we call it, and immediately you get a heart attack. Apart from that, if there is an electrical disturbances in your heart, some patients are prone for very high pulse rate or very high heart rate. That we call as ventricular tachycardia or ventricular fibrillation. That also cause sudden cardiac death, and most of them are maybe genetic. And smoking. So all those things, smoking, stress, and these genetic factors. So all those things, they make up and most of these things, they are not apparently healthy. You are telling apparently, they are actually some amount of atherosclerosis is already there. They are under some stress for some time. So don't take any stress and suddenly do some recreational activities. Try to share your feelings with your friends. Try to have a good sleep and avoid social media as far as possible. So all these things will make your life better.
Right, don't take stress. That's an important advice that comes up time and again. And Dr. Jeevan, how would a bystander, non-medical person, know if he or she is doing CPR with the right technique? What are the main steps of CPR?
And CPR is actually an essential thing which So the first thing to do is, if you have a collapse in front of you, call the person and see if there is a response. Look for any breathing, look for a pulse. If there is no pulse and there is no breathing, you know that the patient is collapsed and you need to start CPR. The first step of CPR is to interlock your hands. And this part, which is called the palm, the base of the palm, is one which goes on to the center of the chest called the sternum. And keep your hands straight and press against the sternum. The depth is about 2 inches or so, and let it recoil in between. The frequency is about 80 to 100 per minute, and this is something called chest compression only CPR. But the first thing you should do if somebody's collapsed is call for help. If standard, ask them to bring up the helpline number, call the nearby hospital, ask for an ambulance. Until somebody who's healthcare professional comes, it's better that you do your CPR. A good response would be the patient responds and wakes up or responds to your CPR. But if the patient does not, it is essential that the patient reaches the hospital, and you need to look for a rhythm disturbance. The patient may need a shock to reset the heart electrical system,
right?
Or the patient may need to look for any further cause for this. If there is a heart attack going on, or is there any other infection going on, or any other reason for this particular cardiac arrest. But it's been found that bystander CPR actually dramatically improves the number of patients reaching hospital safely and having a good neurological function. So it's something which we need to learn and teach others too.
Right. Well, thanks very much, doctors, for joining us and answering those very important questions that concern all of us. We hope it helped our viewers learn more. With that, it's a wrap on this show. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.
Ritika. When a glimmer of hope gave way to a new global threat, we were there. As our soldiers squared off against a hostile neighbor for yet another freezing winter, we were there. When brutality overwhelmed justice and a mockery was made of the rule of law, we were there. When the death of our first Chief of Defence Staff united our nation, we were there. Hope, justice, the truth. Left, right and centre with me, Vishnu Shobh, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. on NDTV 24/7.
Cross the distance between darkness and vision. Teach a generation that has lost all hope. Treat a patient from thousands of miles away. None of this was possible
till technology stepped in and made it possible. A selection of the finest stories from across the country where technology comes with a human touch.
Unleash your dreams with Snapdragon in collaboration with NDTV, only on the NDTV network.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love.
You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
What accountability are you talking about?
As long as the core values and principles remain uncompromised. Debates are essential not just for journalism, but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter-opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 22 years old, but it is young at 22.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया.
So let us begin the big fight.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story India is closely watching. News that informs and inspires.
The news with Sonia Singh, Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
The only side we're on is yours.
When a glimmer of hope gave way to a new global threat, we were there. As our soldiers squared off against a hostile neighbor for yet another freezing winter, we were there.
Victoria Gauri sworn in as the additional judge of the High Court. The top court dismisses a plea against Victoria Gauri, with 54 lawyers now writing to the collegium supporting Victoria Gauri. Over 4,300 people have been killed in both Turkey and Syria after a powerful earthquake that flattened thousands of buildings. Rescue workers dig through the night, and India sends the first batch of relief material to Turkey. Congress says most opposition parties have decided to participate in parliamentary proceedings from today and to continue to raise their demand for a JPC after the Hindenburg report. Both the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party holding protests after the mayor's elections were called off for the third time due to disruptions. And crisis for the Congress party in Maharashtra. Well, it is Congress leader Thorat who has resigned after writing to Mallikarjun Kharge that he can't work with Nana Patole. A very good afternoon. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Divya Wadhwa. Let's get you our top story. And it's both the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP. Both are holding protests in the national capital over the disruption in the mayor's elections for the very third time. The House of the Municipal Corporation of Delhi failed to conduct the mayor's election for the third time in a matter of a month, after presiding officer Satya Sharma adjourned the meeting on Monday owing to the ruckus. Following the adjournment of the House, Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia said that the party has decided to seek the Supreme Court's intervention for impartial. This is as far as the mayor elections are concerned. To get more details and get you a ground report, we have Vedant joining us. Vedant, take us through the situation on the ground and the demand being made by the protesters, giving the third attempt failed in order to elect the mayor of the national capital.
Well, yes, absolutely, Divya. Let me show you, visuals from outside the BJP headquarters. The Aam Aadmi Party councillors, in fact, all the elected councillors have gathered outside the BJP headquarters. Also here, the Aam Aadmi Party's mayoral candidate and the MLAs of the Aam Aadmi Party also joining the protest here. In fact, I'm joined by the Aam Aadmi Party's mayoral candidate, Shelley Oberoi, as well. Shelley, the Supreme Court has agreed to listen to your appeal. So, are you hopeful that, Delhi will finally have an Aam Aadmi Party mayor after the MCD elections? Are you hopeful?
Yes, surely we know that Supreme Court will definitely provide us the justice. They will give us the justice, and this time we have knocked the door of Supreme Court and we have filed twice the petition to the Supreme Court. And as we know that Bharatiya Janata Party has not accepting the mandate given by the Delhi people. Delhi people has given chance to the Aam Aadmi Party in the MCD, and Bharatiya Janata Party are afraid that they have lost in the MCD, but it's very difficult for them to accept this mandate given by the Delhi people, and it could clearly see yesterday that presiding officer was running the house as per the instructions given by the LC and the Bharatiya Janata Party. Everything was done in an unconstitutional way.
Also, Durgesh Pathak here joining us. Sir, सबसे पहले बताइए, do you think, these are elected councillors, till when will this deadlock continue? ये deadlock जो चल रहा है आम आदमी पार्टी और बीजेपी का, कब तक चलता रहेगा? अभी तक 2 महीने हो गए, दिल्ली के पास मेयर नहीं।
पहले तो ये आम आदमी पार्टी और बीजेपी का कोई डेडलॉक नहीं है, ये सिर्फ बीजेपी का एरोगेंस ऑफ पावर है। 151 वोट हमारे पास है, 104 वोट उनके पास है। जब भी चुनाव होगा मेयर हमारा चुना जाएगा। तो कौन है जो चुनाव नहीं चाहता? बीजेपी नहीं चाहती।
बीजेपी का कब तक चलता रहेगा?
मॉनिटरिंग हो जाए। दूसरा है कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी दिल्ली की जनता के जनादेश का सम्मान करना स्टार्ट कर दे। दो ही तरीका है।
So Divya, here protests continue. The Aam Aadmi Party continues to say that the BJP is not accepting the mandate of the people, and they will continue to protest, and they've demanded court-monitored elections within 10 days. Divya.
Right, Vedant. We also have Tanushree joining us from outside the Aam Aadmi Party's office. Tanushree, take us through the demands of the protesters sitting there outside the headquarters of the Aam Aadmi Party.
Well, Divya, it's a protest versus a protest in the national capital. The Aam Aadmi Party is protesting outside the BJP headquarters. Just few meters away from it, there is a BJP protest which is happening outside the Aam Aadmi Party headquarters in the national capital. And all of this over the mayor elections, which hasn't been able to take place as of now. And I have with me, I'll ask camera person Kanan to pan and show you. I have with me one of the aldermen. And alderman is, it has become the bone of contention. सर एक बात आप बताइए, शुक्रिया एनडीटीवी से बात करने के लिए, कि ये पूरा जो मसला हो गया है कि एल्डरमैन वोट नहीं कर सकते हैं, ये इसी को लेकर मेयर इलेक्शन अब से 3 बार पोस्टपोन हो चुका है, तो क्या मसला है? देखिए, मसला ये है कि केजरीवाल दिल्ली को मेयर नहीं देना चाहता। उसने पहले हमारी शपथ पे विरोध किया, फिर शपथ हो गई, तो अब जो ना वोटिंग के लिए है, आप ये बताइए कौन से कानून में लिखा है कि जो आदमी डिप्टी स्टैंडिंग कमेटी चेयरमैन बन सकता है लेकिन वोट नहीं डाल सकता, ये दिखाइए। लेकिन क्या है सच्चाई, जो केजरीवाल ने कहा था कि मैं 2 महीने में 60 दिन के अंदर जो कूड़े के जो पहाड़ हैं इनको समाप्त कर दूंगा, आज जो है ना केजरीवाल को लग रहा है कि मैं अपने वादे पूरे नहीं कर पाऊंगा, और उन्हें अपने पार्षदों पे विश्वास नहीं है, क्योंकि आज भ्रष्टाचार का अड्डा जो उनके पार्षद बन चुके हैं, इसलिए वो चुनाव स्वयं कराना नहीं चाहते। यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है दाल में कुछ काला है, जो मेयर का चुनाव टाला है। आम आदमी पार्टी भी सेम प्रोटेस्ट कर रही है और बीजेपी पे सेम एलिगेशंस लगा रही है कि आप लोग डिले कर रहे हैं। देखिए, कल हम 105 हमारे पार्षद और 10 हम एल्डरमैन, हमने हाथ जोड़ के उनके जो है ना सभी नेताओं से रिक्वेस्ट की कि दिल्ली को जो है ना मेयर दीजिए, दिल्ली को मेयर दीजिए। और तो दाल में काला केजरीवाल को है, हम तो बिल्कुल ठीक है, वो कहते हैं ना चोर की दाढ़ी में तनका, और तो चोर है केजरीवाल, उसके मन में चोर है। हम तो दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री के लिए ऐसी बात कर रहे हैं, तो आप लोग को पक्का इस प्रोटेस्ट के पीछे कुछ ठोस सबूत है आप लोग के पास? क्योंकि आम आदमी पार्टी भी सेम बात बोल रही है बीजेपी के लिए। देखिए, हम तो बार बार उनसे एक ही प्रार्थना कर रहे हैं ना कि दिल्ली को मेयर दें। हम तो कभी जो ना विरोध कर नहीं रहे, विरोध कर रहे हैं वो कर रहे हैं, हम कोई विरोध नहीं कर रहे। विरोध केवल जो ना केजरीवाल आम आदमी पार्टी के पार्षद कर रहे हैं। और आप बोल रहे हैं एल्डरमैन जो है वो वोट कर सकते हैं? नहीं, हम तो वोट कर सकते हैं, अगर नहीं वोट है तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के करे वो आदेश दिखा दें। हम तो जो संविधान में जो लिखा है उसका पालन करेंगे। So Divya, that was one of the aldermen. He just told us that it's a rule, it's written in the constitution that the aldermen can very much vote, and they are going by the rules, and it's in fact the Aam Aadmi Party which doesn't want the national capital Delhi to get a mayor, and you can see that it's a huge protest. In fact, now it has become a protest versus a protest, where Aam Aadmi Party is at loggerheads with the Bharatiya Janata Party here in the national capital, just at the center of this, at the heart of Delhi. There are 2 protests simultaneously taking place. Aam Aadmi Party is fighting the BJP, and here's the BJP saying that it's actually the Aam Aadmi Party and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal which don't want Delhi to get its mayor. Back to you.
Right, so Tanushree, we will keep coming back to you for more on that, as well as Vedant. But first, let's listen into what Saurabh Bhardwaj had to say.
The Delhi deadlock really continues. The Aam Aadmi Party is protesting outside the BJP headquarters, the BJP also protesting, but Delhi is still without the mayor. That's the bottom line. After 2 months of the MCD elections, Delhi is still without a mayor. And it's the Aam Aadmi Party's responsibility, moral responsibility as well, I'm sure.
So, it is very unfortunate that Delhi people who have elected Aam Aadmi Party as a majority party in the Delhi MCD has been kept out of power due to conspiracies hatched by none than the central government of India. Now we are in the Supreme Court. We mentioned our case in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court readily agreed to listen to our petition tomorrow, because it is blatant illegality what BJP is trying to push through their pro-term mayor. The pro-term mayor is so biased that she is saying that against the constitutional provisions, against the provisions of DMC Act, the nominated councillors will vote and the elected MLAs will not vote.
Right, so in a sense defying the DMC Act. But another thing that the Aam Aadmi Party has mentioned is that the BJP has also tried to poach some of its councillors, offering multiple crores to the councillors. How are you going to prove that? Because you haven't presented any proof as far as that is concerned, that allegation is concerned.
Look, we are in the court of law. When the court will ask for evidence, we will provide ample evidence. Moreover, we have evidences in terms of video recordings of yesterday's House proceedings, where it can be seen that it is only the BJP councillors who were creating ruckus. It was the BJP councillors who were shouting slogans. It was the BJP's pro tem mayor who basically suspended the House in a day. Aam Aadmi Party councillors were just sitting peacefully on their chairs. They did not even move. So this will be so open to the court to see that probably BJP can manipulate people by telling lies, but you cannot manipulate the court of law and the highest court of law.
Aam Aadmi Party's Saurabh Bhardwaj there blaming the BJP for the ruckus that was caused yesterday that led to the disruption of the mayor's elections. Moving on, senior Congress leader Balasaheb Thorat has resigned from the post of the Maharashtra's Congress Legislative Party. This a day after he conveyed to the High Command that he cannot work with Nana Patole. To get more details on this, we have my colleague Sohit joining us. Sohit, please elaborate on the differences that led to Thorat resigning from the party. This after he conveyed to Mallikarjun Kharge that he cannot be working with Nana Patole.
Well, while Balasaheb Thorat is still with the party, what he has resigned from is from the post of the Congress Legislative Assembly leader. He was the Congress Legislative, he was the CLP leader. The Congress Legislative Party in the Maharashtra Assembly was being led by Balasaheb Thorat. So he has resigned from that post. He hasn't resigned from the party. Balasaheb Thorat is one of the most senior Congress party leaders. He is an 8-time MLA from Sangamner. He has been a revenue minister. He has also been the party president in the past. Now what has happened is during the MLC elections which recently happened for the Maharashtra Legislative Council, Balasaheb Thorat's close relative Satyajit Tambe was supposed to contest the election from the Nashik Graduate Council. While his name was being finalized, the Congress party did not give him the ticket but gave the ticket to his father Sudhir Tambe. However, Sudhir Tambe did not contest the election and later Satyajit Tambe contested from the very same seat as an independent. Now after that, several rumours were being spread that he has become a part of the BJP, and that is exactly what Balasaheb Thorat has been angry about. He said that he can't work with such a state president. He also said that there were plans being made to ensure that the image is being tarnished of him as well as his family. In fact, few days back a video was being released where he said that there has been internal politics going on and that he has conveyed about this to the party's high command. But now what we come to know that after writing a letter that he cannot work with Nana Patole, who is the state president, Balasaheb Thorat has now resigned from the post of the CLP, the Maharashtra Congress Legislative Party leader. Now, Balasaheb Thorat is a very important leader if you speak about Maharashtra Congress, an 8-time MLA. Apart from that, he is one of the senior most Congress leaders. When the Mahavikas Aghadi government was in power, he was the revenue minister. He ensured that Congress gets an alliance is being formed between the Congress and the Shiv Sena, and a government was formed in Maharashtra. So yes, Balasaheb Thorat plays a very crucial role in Maharashtra Congress politics, and if he has resigned from this post, this shows that all is not well within the party, and that's why now a letter has been written to the High Command, after which he has also resigned from the post of the Maharashtra CLP.
Right, so Sohit, we will keep coming back to you for more on that, considering there's a tussle between the two top leaders within the party. And there you have it, he's saying that he would not be working with Nana Patole, and having conveyed that to Mallikarjun Kharge today, he has resigned from the post. Moving on, Victoria Gauri was sworn in. Let's just cut across to Lok Sabha right now before we come back to you on the very latest.
किसी ने कहा नरेंद्रनाथ दत्त से नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी तक, नरेंद्र से लेकर नरेंद्र तक कहा था उठो जागो और तब तक मत रुको जब तक अपने लक्ष्य की प्राप्ति मत कर लो। और दूसरे नरेंद्र निकल पड़े हैं चरैवती के सिद्धांत को आत्मसात करते हुए साहसिक निर्णय के साथ, दृढ़ इच्छा शक्ति के साथ इस भारत माता को परम वैभव पर पहुंचाने के लिए, गरीब को गणेश मानकर काम करने के लिए। जब संयुक्त सत्र में हमने देखा है त्रेता युग में माता सबरी प्रभु श्री राम का स्वागत करने के लिए आतुर थी, और आज जब संयुक्त सत्र की हम लोग बात करें, आदरणीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया जब संसद में प्रवेश कर रही थी, तब ऐसा लग रहा था कि उस समय त्रेता युग में सबरी माता प्रभु श्री राम का स्वागत कर रही थी, तभी ऐसा लग रहा था कि प्रभु श्री राम माता सबरी का स्वागत करने के लिए, अभिनंदन के लिए संसद के द्वार पर खड़े हैं। उनके स्वागत के लिए, उनके अभिनंदन के लिए आज देश के प्रधानमंत्री जी की दूरदर्शिता से, अपने विजन से प्रतिवर्ष वो प्लान बनाकर इस देश को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए, इस देश को विकसित, उन्नति और प्रगति के मार्ग पर ले जाने के लिए काम कर रहे हैं। आज हमारा सौभाग्य है, पूरे देश के करोड़ों लोगों का सौभाग्य है कि आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में, जिसका जिक्र अभिभाषण में आया था, आज सकल घरेलू उत्पाद का जो देश 85% भागीदारी रखते हैं, जो वैश्विक व्यापार में 75% हिस्सेदारी रखते हैं, जो दुनिया की 2/3 आबादी का नेतृत्व करते हैं, ऐसे देशों की G20 देशों की अध्यक्षता करने का गौरव भारत को मिला है। इसके लिए अभिनंदन करते हैं हमारी सरकार का, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का। भारत देश भर में अनेक बैठकें आयोजित करेगा। वैश्विक स्तर पर भारत की छवि को काफी प्रसिद्धि मिली है। G20 का अध्यक्षता का ये लोगो, ये थीम, ये वेबसाइट देश के संदेश और दुनिया की प्राथमिकताओं में भारत की प्राथमिकताओं को प्रतिबिंबित करने का काम करेगा। G20 का हमारा मंत्र वासुदेव कुटुंबकम, वन अर्थ, वन फैमिली, वन फ्यूचर, उदार चरिता नाम तू वासुदेव कुटुंबकम। या मेरा, ये पैराया, ये छोटे विचार के व्यक्ति सोचते हैं, लेकिन उच्च चरित्र के लोग, उच्च विचार के लोग पूरे समस्त परिवार को अपना, देश को अपना, दुनिया को अपना परिवार मानकर चलते हैं। माननीय महामहिम राष्ट्रपति महोदया ने अभिभाषण में अपने वक्तव्य किया, ये आज़ादी का अमृतकाल चल रहा है। कुछ ही महीनों में हम आज़ादी के अमृतकाल में प्रवेश, 75वें वर्ष में प्रवेश करेंगे। जिस तरह से पहली बार देश के प्रधानमंत्री जी ने लाल किले की प्राचीर से तिरंगा फहराया था, उसके पश्चात ये तिरंगा आज पूरे विश्व भर में फहराता नजर आ रहा है। इस तिरंगे के खातिर अनेक लोगों ने अपनी प्राणों की आहुतियां दे दी। कई युवाओं ने भारत माता की जय, इंकलाब जिंदाबाद का नारा देकर इस भारत को गुलामी की बेड़ियों से मुक्त कराने के लिए अपने प्राणों की आहुति दे दी। आज स्वर से उनकी आत्मा भी खुश हो रही होगी कि यह तिरंगा आज विश्व भर में लहरा रहा है। हमें खुशी इस बात की भी है कि कश्मीर के लाल चौक से लेकर, देश के प्रमुख चौराहे से लेकर, एयरपोर्ट से लेकर रेलवे स्टेशन, देश के प्रमुख चौराहे पर जब तिरंगा फहराता है तो राष्ट्रवाद की प्रेरणा पूरे देश भर के लोगों को देता है। आज ये तिरंगा पूरे देश में संकट काल का भी पर्याय बन चुका है। जब रूस और यूक्रेन का युद्ध हम लोगों ने देखा, तब मात्र तिरंगे के कारण, इस देश के प्रभावी प्रधानमंत्री के आह्वान के कारण दो दुश्मन राष्ट्रों ने भी बमबारी बंद कर दी और तिरंगे के पीछे हजारों हमारे भाई बहन सुरक्षित हिंदुस्तान लौटकर आ गए। पहले भी देश के प्रधानमंत्री दुनिया में जाते थे, न तो देश को पता लगता था, न दुनिया को पता लगता था। लेकिन आज 56 इंच के सीने वाला प्रधानमंत्री शेर हिंदुस्तान दुनिया के देश में जाते हैं तो वहां भी भारत का तिरंगा फहराता है, भारत माता का जयघोष होता है। तब कहना चाहता हूं, गूंज रहा है दुनिया में भारत का नगाड़ा, चमक रहा है आसमान में सितारा। आज के दिन आओ मिलकर करें दुआ कि बुलंदी पर लहराता रहे तिरंगा हमारा, बुलंदी पर लहराता रहे तिरंगा हमारा। आजादी के अमृत काल में हजारों वर्षों के गौरवशाली अतीत का गर्व जुड़ा है। भारतीय स्वतंत्रता संग्राम की प्रेरणाएं जुड़ी है, भारत के स्वर्णिम भविष्य के संकल्प जुड़े हैं। देश आज विश्व गुरु बनने की राह पर है, तो इस सौभाग्य हमें प्रदान किया है देश के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री आदरणीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने। आपने कई बातें कही, कई प्रकार के जुमले भी आप लोग बोलते हैं, लेकिन फिर भी मौन रहकर जो कर्म करता है होकर मौन, तू बता उससे जीत सकता है कौन। जो लाक्षागृह में जलते हैं वही शूरमा निकलते हैं। और कितनी ही बातें करने, अनर्गल बातें करने के बावजूद भी इस राष्ट्र के लिए चरैवती के सिद्धांत को लेकर तब कहा जाता है अमृतकाल का 25 वर्ष का कालखंड स्वतंत्रता के स्वर्णिम शताब्दी का और विकसित भारत के निर्माण का कालखंड है। ये 25 वर्ष हम सब के लिए और देश के प्रत्येक नागरिकों के लिए कर्तव्यों की पराकाष्ठा करने का है। देश के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री जी ने लाल किले की प्राचीर से अमृत काल के पंच प्रण के संकल्प का आह्वान किया, जो देश की आज़ादी के 100 वर्ष पूरे होने पर देश की स्थिति के दिशा दर्शक तत्व होंगे। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा 2047 में देश की आज़ादी के 100 वर्ष पूरे हो जाएंगे। इस पंच प्रण को स्वर्णिम काल में हमें पूरा करना है। एक ऐसा संकल्प, विकसित भारत का संकल्प, गुलामी से मुक्ति का संकल्प, विरासत पर गर्व करने का संकल्प, एकता और एकजुटता का संकल्प, नागरिकों की कर्तव्यता का संकल्प। माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया ने अपने अभिभाषण में भविष्य के भारत की कामना की है। आने वाले समय का भारत कैसा होगा? एक ऐसा भारत जो आत्मनिर्भर हो, अपने मानवीय दायित्वों को पूरा करने वाला भारत हो। एक ऐसा भारत जिसमें गरीबी ना हो, जिसका मध्यम वर्ग भी वैभव से युक्त हो। एक ऐसा भारत जिसकी युवा शक्ति, नारी शक्ति, समाज और राष्ट्र को दिशा देने वाला भारत हो, जिसमें युवा सबसे 2 कदम आगे चलने वाले हों। एक ऐसा भारत जिसकी विविधता और अधिक उज्जवल हो, जिसकी एकता और अधिक अटल हो। माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय जी, 2047 तक के लिए देश के भविष्य और आने वाली पीढ़ियों को हितों को ध्यान में रखकर मेरी सरकार ने बेहतर काम करने का काम शुरू किया। हमने माननीय अध्यक्ष जी 2014 में जब हमारी देश में सरकार बनी तो पूरे देश के लोगों ने देखा है भ्रष्टाचार और आतंकवाद का बोलबाला था। भ्रष्टाचार और आतंकवाद का बोलबाला था। तब दुनिया के देश के लोगों में एक आशा भरी नजरों से देख रहा था। दादा आपसे कड़ा कोई वरिष्ठ नहीं है, बिराजी आप। 2014 में देश में आतंकवाद, देश में भ्रष्टाचार की आग जल रही थी। तब देश के लोगों ने सोचा गुजरात मॉडल को देखकर कि देश में नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में ये देश उन्नति कर सकता है, प्रगति कर।
Lok Sabha proceedings after days of disruptions, a motion of thanks on President's address in the Lok Sabha. With that, we're slipping to a very short break. Lots more coming up on the other side.
Cross the distance between darkness and vision. Teach a generation that has lost all hope. Treat a patient from thousands of miles away. None of this was possible
till technology stepped in and made it possible. A selection of the finest stories from across the country where technology comes with a human touch.
Unleash your dreams with Snapdragon in collaboration with NDTV. Only on the NDTV network.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love.
You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
What accountability are you talking about?
As long as the core values and principles remain uncompromised. Debates are essential not just for journalism but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 22 years old, but it is young at 22.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया।
So let us begin the big fight.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story India is closely watching. News that informs and inspires.
The news with Sonia Singh. Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
The only side we're on is yours.
When a glimmer of hope gave way to a new global threat, we were there. As our soldiers squared off against a hostile neighbor for yet another freezing winter, we were there. When brutality overwhelmed justice and a mockery was made of the rule of law, we were there. When the death of our first Chief of Defence Staff united our nation, we were there. Hope, justice, the truth. Left, right and centre with me, Vishnu Shom, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. on NDTV 24/7.
Cross the distance between darkness and vision. Teach a generation that has lost all hope. Treat a patient from thousands of miles away. None of this was possible
till technology stepped in and made it possible. A selection of the finest stories from across the country where technology comes with a human touch.
Unleash your dreams with Snapdragon in collaboration with NDTV, only on the NDTV network.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love.
You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
What accountability are you talking about?
As long as the core values and principles remain uncompromised. Debates are essential not just for journalism, but for humanity. It ignites our mind, opens it up for counter-opinion. To hear all views, opinion of all hues. Which is why the oldest running debate show on Indian news television is not 22 years old, but it is young at 22.
इस इनिशिएटिव को मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं कि सच को सच के रूप में पेश करने का उन्होंने साहस दिखाया.
So let us begin the big fight.
This is NDTV. No noise, no shouting, and most importantly, no lies. Our lead story tonight. Big international story India is closely watching it. News that informs and inspires.
The news with Sonia Singh. Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
The only side we're on is yours.
When a glimmer of hope gave way to a new global threat, we were there. As our soldiers squared off against a hostile neighbor for yet another freezing winter, we were there. When brutality overwhelmed justice and a mockery was made of the rule of law, we were there. When the death of our first Chief of Defence Staff united our nation, we were there. Hope, justice, the truth. Left, right and centre with me, Vishnu Shom, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. on NDTV 24/7.
Cross the distance between darkness and vision. Teach a generation that has lost all hope. Treat a patient from thousands of miles away. None of this was possible
till technology stepped in and made it possible. A selection of the finest stories from across the country where technology comes with a human touch.
Unleash your dreams with Snapdragon in collaboration with NDTV, only on the NDTV network.
Gadgets 360 is here to help you with all your tech needs.
Gadget 360, Gadget Love.
Gadgets 360, Gadgets Love.
You too can get some gadget love with buying guides, expert reviews, and all the latest news on Gadgets 360.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
Welcome back. Let's get you a quick check on the weather conditions. And if you're here in the northern part of the country and feeling unusually warm, especially at night, finding it difficult to sleep because it's feeling warmer than usual, well, you're not alone, because the temperature in the national capital is up by 6 degrees from what it usually is in the day, and up by almost 4 degrees at night. What is causing this drastic change in weather? Let's go across to Mahesh Palawat of SkyMet. Very good afternoon, Mahesh. First, take us through, this drastic change that we're seeing in the weather condition. The temperature is up by 6 degrees from usual. It's touching 29 degrees in the first week of February itself. What has brought about this huge change?
Divya, now winds have changed direction from northwesterly to southwesterly. So warmer winds are blowing across northwest India, including Delhi and Punjab, Haryana, North Rajasthan, leading to increase in temperature. And the wind speed, which was very high since last few days, has also reduced, leading to increase in temperature. And moreover, there were partly cloudy sky. That's why the night temperatures have also increased. And now a western disturbance will approach Western Himalayas between night of February 8 to and February 11. So temperatures will increase, will remain high on a higher side by 4 to 5 degrees Celsius until 12th of February. Thereafter, the strong northwesterly winds will again start blowing across northwest India, leading to dip in temperature. So we can say by 13 and 14 temperature, or 14 and 15 temperatures, maximum temperatures, which are at present 29 degree, we may dip to 24, 25, or between 24 to 26 degree, and minimum temperatures will be also around 9 degrees Celsius, but they will be still higher than normal, particularly night temperatures.
Mahesh Palawat, if you could tell us that could the mercury touch 30 degrees in the month of February this year?
Yes, we think so, because during last 1 decade we have seen temperatures above 29 degree on 5 occasions, in 5 years. And in February 2021, it touched 33.2 degrees Celsius on February 26. So by end of the month, or you can say during last week of February, temperatures may touch 30 degree or may cross 30 degree also.
So the trend we saw last March of it being unusually warm as far as the month of March is concerned, we're seeing that in February. And like you mentioned, also in 2015 and 2016, when the temperature crossed 29 and 30 degrees Celsius in those years as well. So it has happened in the past. It isn't very unusual for the temperature to drastically change as fast as it has.
Yes, now the temperatures will increase in the month of February itself by last week of February, and March seems to be much warmer than usual, because pre-monsoon activities usually commence in the month of March, but we do not foresee any significant pre-monsoon activity this year as well, and temperatures will be more than higher, or you can say the heat wave like conditions will prevail in the March itself, which is not beneficial for these crops, particularly Rabi crops.
So can we say that we're expecting an early summer this time around?
Yes, we are expecting early summer, because pre-monsoon activities, the long-range forecast is indicating that pre-monsoon activities will be fewer than normal, and the temperatures will increase, and heat wave conditions are also expected during the month of April and May, and severe heat wave conditions cannot be ruled out.
Right, Mahesh Palawat there of SkyMet telling us and warning us of an early onset of summer. So let's just enjoy whatever little is left, considering that winter is almost over. Thank you so much, Mahesh, for joining us. Moving on to more news, Victoria Gauri was sworn in as the additional judge of the Madras High Court this morning, even as the Supreme Court heard petitions against her elevation. Well, eventually, the Supreme Court dismissed that petition against Victoria Gauri, and there was a huge controversy after these were reports that emerged about her alleged affiliation to the BJP and the alleged hate speeches that were made by her against minority communities. The bar members of the Madras High Court had written to the Chief Justice of India seeking to recall as far as a recommendation was made for appointing Gauri as an additional judge of the High Court, alleging that she had made hate speeches against Christians and Muslims.
I will duly and faithfully and to the best of my ability, knowledge and judgment
perform the duties of my office without fear or favor.
Perform the duties of my office without fear or favor.
Now here was a case when, on the basis of the recommendations and the other materials placed before the Supreme Court Collegium and the government, a warrant of appointment has been issued. She was to take oath. Now at the 11th hour, a writ is being filed, making some certain allegations relating to the year 2018, a stale matter. Therefore, the order of the Supreme Court passed today is perfectly all right.
Well, in fact, despite all those rumors about preponement at 9:15, 9:30, 10 o'clock, finally it was listed as per the convention. Justice Sanjeev Khanna as well as Justice Gawai hearing the matter, preponement by around 5 minutes at 10:25 before the swearing in, and really listening for nearly half an hour to the various arguments put out by the lawyers of the Madras High Court through their counsel, Raju Ramachandran and Mr. Anand Grover, about what they had to say. One was on the question of eligibility, about the fact that a presumption that the collegium might have not known about the hate speeches that she had made and whether that information was before them. The judges arguing for a long time about the fact that people with political affiliations have become judges before. There have been very clear cases and they cited a number of them which was conceded. It was a question about eligibility, about the fact whether these inputs were given to the collegium or not. The judges who were sitting on the bench saying very categorically that they have to work within the four corners of their system and they can't direct a petition to the collegium to say that have you listened to inputs or not. It's an assumption. They also talked about the fact that they are consulting judges before this appointment that takes place. There's a robust system in terms of appointment of additional High Court judges, and clearly the consulting judges would have been given these inputs. The point that is being made, even though there was no complaint against her in the State Bar Council or the Bar Council of India, was that these inputs in terms of what we've seen in terms of social posts were factored in or not. In fact, even no less than the judges sitting on the bench, talking about Justice John Satyan, which was brought up when he said they had posted and they're saying that the collegium had put its recommendation and reiteration once again. So finally, after hearing the to and fro, the two judges not inclined, dismissing the petition and will give reasons for why they're dismissing the petition at a later stage, setting the stage for the swearing in, which we just witnessed a short while back of Victoria Gao as an additional High Court judge. Just one more point which the judges continued to say was that this is the appointment of an additional High Court judge, and that will need to be confirmed at a later stage depending on her performance. So it's not clearly a full appointment, but nevertheless the system is robust according to the Supreme Court.
Let's get you the latest from Mumbai, where there's been an increase as far as chest infection and asthma cases are concerned. 50 to 60% increase in the people walking into hospitals complaining of shortness of breath or a prolonged cough. And this is on account of the pollution levels, which in Mumbai are amongst the highest in the world. Well, pollution count is not just the highest in the national capital, but now also in a coastal city like Mumbai, which was known for its maximum city, is now maximum toxicity as far as Mumbai is concerned. Many people there suffering on account of the construction that is has increased many folds in the city of Mumbai. So the construction of metro, the repair of roads, as well as the wind direction, the fall in temperatures, those are the reasons why we're seeing this huge sharp increase in the pollution levels in the winter season this year.
Right now we are at the Sion Fort. Now this is a fort which was used by the Portugal. The Portuguese used to keep this fort, or this fort was used by them to border their areas. But if they want to do it today, they will face a lot of difficulties. And the reason for that is the rising pollution in Mumbai. As of now, if you look at the air quality index as per SAFAR, Mumbai overall, the current air quality index is 300. Now 300 is the borderline between poor and very poor. And currently where we are, on the right hand side, what you see behind me is the Bandra Worli ceiling, the BKC area. If you look at the BKC's air quality index as of now, on suffer, it is around 344, and similarly are several other places in the city. So yes, pollution has impacted a lot, and this is happening not only for a day or two, but if we talk about the winter this season, more than 66 days, the air quality of Mumbai has been in the poor to very poor category, and this shows how bad is the current air quality in the city. The visuals you are seeing are of the high-rise towers of the Banner ceiling, which is barely visible because of the smoke, the dust, the pollution, and because of this we can also see a blurry image of the city even from the Sion Fort, the same fort which was once used to ensure that there is security over here. So this is how the pollution is affecting the city, and this is the aerial view of the same from the Sion Fort. In Mumbai, with camera person Praveen Rohit, Sohit Mishra, NDTV.
Absolutely visible there in those visuals, as Sohit was showing us how pollution levels are on a rise in a coastal city like Mumbai. Given its proximity to the sea, the pollution levels should be in check. Moving on, anti-encroachment drive by the Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory administration has snowballed into a major controversy. The opposition has accused the administration for targeting poor and political opponents in the name of the anti-encroachment drive. There are protests at multiple places at the land cultivated and inhabited by people for generations has been declared illegal encroachment. The government has directed all the district collectors to retrieve the state land, leased land, common use land and also the grazing land occupied by people. My colleague Nazir gets us the details.
Anti-encroachment drive which is going on for last over 2 weeks across Jammu and Kashmir, and there's not a single place which is not actually witnessing some sort of protest, resentment and even social chaos, because everybody has some land. This is the only place across the country, Jammu and Kashmir, where everybody is owning a land or using land, whether it is the state land or the property land, because of the Land Reforms Act in 1950. So now the government has come with the order that this land, state land or the common use land, except property land, they should be retrieved. People should be evicted from this land. And now order is clearly the entire land should be, retrieved. But then when there was a, protest and all that, government is now saying, LG administration is now saying, no, we're only targeting the rich and influential, but there's no formal order. So officials are following the order which has been issued by the government. If you these visuals clearly speak, these small makeshift structure don't belong to any rich and influential. They are belong to the poor people. That's why we see everywhere yesterday, Mahbooba Mufti, Umar Abdullah, Sajjad Lone, they held press conferences and blamed government actually dispossessing people. So according to the reports, around 4 lakh, near 4 lakh canals of land has been retrieved in Kashmir Valley only, which is around 50,000 acres of land. So it is actually, people are worried what would happen to them, their livelihood. Many people are losing livelihood because shops built on them have been demolished. Bulldozers are being used in every district. And even yesterday, Umar Abdullah talking about, why bulldozer has become the first, response to this.
Let's just cut across to Mamata Banerjee, who's holding a roadshow. To get more on this, we have my colleague Saurabh Gupta joining us. Saurabh, what are the latest details that you're hearing?
Well, the Chief Minister of West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, is in Tripura. She's holding a roadshow at the capital of Tripura, Agartala. This is in connection with the TMC's campaign in the state of Tripura. Now, Tripura is important for the TMC because, A, it has always been on the list of states that it has explored its presence in, apart from West Bengal. Tripura has a large Bengali-speaking population, and Mamata Banerjee has been seeing Tripura as another area and another state beyond the frontiers of West Bengal, where the Trinamool Congress can have some sort of a presence. But that kind of influence in Tripura or political power has eluded the TMC so far. This time, the TMC has taken a different approach. Rather than Mamata Banerjee managing the whole show by herself, the responsibility for the national expansion plans of the Trinamool has been given to Abhishek Banerjee, who is the National General Secretary of the Trinamool, in charge of the party's expansion plans in the northeast, and he's overseeing this entire campaign, not just in Tripura, but also in states like Meghalaya. And Mamata Banerjee is holding the campaign ahead of the elections. Tripura goes to vote, on February 16th, and you have an alliance with the Congress and the CPN there, which is in opposition. You also have an alliance with the BJP and the regional outfit IPFT. You also have, there is another party, the Tipra Mota, the local party, which has also been, floated. So these, of course, are the parties. And right now you have that road show taking place in Agartala. Mamata Banerjee is expected to address the gathering at the end of that road show. But this is a mega campaign event in Tripura, where the Trinamool is eyeing a certain number of seats. It's not contesting in all the seats, but it's certainly eyeing a certain number of seats to bolster its presence in a state like Tripura, which has a large Bengali-speaking population. And in that context, this is very important for the Trinamool's national expansion plan, which have been outlined by the party National General Secretary Abhishek Banerjee.
We can see the kind of support she's getting as far as the number of people who have turned up in large number for that road show that's being held in Tripura.
Well, yes, this was expected because really Mamata Banerjee is the only star campaigner in real politic terms for the Trinamool Congress. The Trinamool Congress asks for votes. It doesn't ask for votes in the names of other leaders of the party. It asks for votes in the name of Mamata Banerjee, just like the BJP does in the name of the Prime Minister. So in that context, when she is hitting the ground in a campaign, you will see this kind of a turnout. You will see crowds, especially in a state like Tripura, where there's a considerable Bengali-speaking population. And which is why you see these crowds lined up along the street as Mamata Banerjee holds that road show in the state capital of Tripura. She, yesterday, went to the Tripura to offer prayers. But now, of course, she is holding that road show.
Coming back to you for more on that, as that road show that's being held by Mamata Banerjee in Tripura. That's Mamata Banerjee there, as you can see on your screens, holding that road show in Agartala in Tripura ahead of the elections. There with, like Saurav was mentioning, many there speaking Bengali. They're out there pledging their support, participating in that road show being held by Mamata Banerjee. Right, Saurabh, you were telling us as to, this was very expected that people would come out in large number, showing their support and pledging, their support to Mamata Banerjee ahead of the elections.
That's right. The Trinamool is taking a bid for a certain number of seats in Tripura, and it is important for the Trinamool in the context of its national expansion plan. So, obviously, Mamata Banerjee is the star campaigner for the Trinamool. The votes are being sought in her name and the policies that her government has implemented in West Bengal. If you look at the manifesto released by the TMC in Agartala on Sunday, several schemes that have been popular in West Bengal, for example, Sobut Shati, Duare Sarkar, these are all schemes that have been very, very popular in West Bengal. Those same schemes have been promised in the Tripura manifesto as well. So in that context, you will see a lot of people, especially within the Trinamool, pushing the Mamata Banerjee welfare state, welfare scheme model of governance, even in the state of Tripura. And Tripura, where there is a sizable Bengali-speaking population, is important for the Trinamool Congress, which is why you will see, the party campaign. Mamata Banerjee is expected to address the gathering after she finishes this roadshow, this campaign event, which is
Saurabh, Mamata Banerjee going on to call Tripura her second home.
Yes, when she arrived in the state capital of Tripura, Agartala, she did mention that. She said it's nice to be coming to a place which is like home. The same food habits, the same outfits, the same language, and I feel comfortable when I can speak in my own language. Because remember, Mamata Banerjee's political skills as someone who's come from a very humble background to her rise as a politician is based on two things. One is her ability to hold agitations and rally people around that. The second is her speeches that are always very, very fiery and that invoke strong sentiments. And in that context, the language that she's most comfortable in is obviously Bengali, so that she can communicate in Bengali. She feels more comfortable, while she's also, trying to be conversant in other languages as well. But Bengali is the language that she's most comfortable in. What she mentioned when she said that Tripura was like a home to her. So in that context, yes, this is important in terms of the campaign that is taking place in Agartala at this point. You can see Mamata Banerjee walk in that roadshow at this point.
Right, the big show of strength by TMC in Tripura, and the people who've come out in large number in order to show their support of Mamata Banerjee. So we will keep tracking that story and keep coming back to you for more on that. Moving on, Google has unveiled a new AI service called Bard. This system is very similar to the already popular ChatGPT and is Google's foray into AI technology, the artificial intelligence technology. And to get more on this, we have my colleague Rag joining us. Rag, ChatGPT has been making headlines, not necessarily for the right reasons, with many universities banning the use of ChatGPT. But now we have Google following suit.
Yeah, so Google has made their foray into, this conversational AI service. It's powered by a bot they already had. They've been working on this. It's called Lambda. And now they're officially calling this conversational AI service Bard. Now, Google and Bard are definitely new players on the block when it comes to this AI service. It's powered, as I said earlier, by their older language assistant. And while Bard is not public right now, the way ChatGPT is, it will be after enough testing amongst trusted users. Now, Bard comes after, of course, this ongoing debate around ChatGPT, and OpenAI and Microsoft, in fact, have deepened their relationship. OpenAI is the company that owns ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is housed on Microsoft servers. So Microsoft is definitely trying to put its eggs into this basket. Google, not wanting to be left behind, is also doing the same, because while many tech experts believe that the future is not just about Google search engine, but more about predictive search engines. So the more you use ChatGPT, the better those search results could be. And that's why we have now Google also coming into the foray with Bard.
Right. When we talk about ChatGPT, they say that it doesn't use the internet for its answers. It goes by its training program, and that's how it comes up with its answers. Unlike Siri and unlike, of course, we have other AI services which you do use the internet. So will Bard also be using the internet or not?
Yeah, I think so. Bard will be. Right now, it's definitely in its testing phase. Google doesn't want to release it to the public because with these tools, the one thing is that it learns through trial and error. So the more you use it, the more it'll learn, the more it'll go ahead and scan the web and try to get answers. And for example, ChatGPT also has a problem in the fact that most knowledge can't be more than a year old. So for example, it can't tell you who won the World Cup this year. Similarly, Bard has to go through rigorous testing, and that's why there are only trusted users right now that are allowed with Bard. And so Google is going to open that up to the public after that.
It'll probably fix all those issues already existing with ChatGPT, which could be about misinformation and limited information that is out there as so far. Well, thank you so much, Rag, for joining us with all that. We will keep coming back to you for more on this. For now, we're sitting into a very short break.